Welcome everybody to the first in a many-part series we're calling The Great Attack on Titan Reread. I'm here with some friends as we are going to reread Attack on Titan as promised in my recent Attack on Titan main channel video where I said I can't make these ending videos until I do a proper reread of the series. And of course, through the course of this reread, it'll give me, and potentially some of the people also on the call here, a lot of video ideas for the future. So this is exciting for everybody. You should read along with us. I'd like to encourage, for those who are reading along with us, or even those who are super familiar with the material, to actually comment on this video and tell us what you thought going back to these chapters, if you are following along with us, or just little things we missed, or all that type of shit. It'd be fun if this was a collaborative project, not just with the three of us, but with chat as well. The proverbial chat, the YouTube chat. With that being said, we're going to get in here, and to do that I have to introduce who I'm here with. So first we'll go to Mr. Elite Ari.
Yes, hello. I am Elite Ari, and I've recently started making YouTube videos like a few months ago, and most of them, or at least the good ones in my opinion, are on Attack on Titan. And I am looking forward to rereading.
Rereading. We are also here with Mr. R himself, Rika7.
Hello everyone. Yes, I'm Rika7. I sometimes do manga and anime content on stream, and I've now made a dedicated YouTube channel for it, which is where videos like this will end up. And I'm here for the vibes. Any excuse to reread Attack on Titan is good with me. So,
yes, we should point out that this series will be rotating on whose channel it is uploaded to. So you're going to have to subscribe to everybody. All the channels which will be featured are in the description below, because Ari, you did make a second channel for this.
Yep.
So it won't be the Elite Ari channel, so you better make sure you're on top of your shit to catch all the episodes. The first one will be here on Secondary ENT. I don't know how you wouldn't know that if you are currently watching the video and hearing my voice right now. But I reiterated on it anyway. To start this off, I might have missed some other things we should have gone over in the introduction, but I'm sure I'll remember them as we progress and bring them up.
Maybe spoiler warning.
Oh, spoiler warning, we're talking about everything. Don't read this as like your first, if you like decide, oh, maybe I'll read Attack on Titan now for the first time, and I've read the 18 chapters. No. We're talking about the ending immediately. I got things to say about Bird Aaron nearly immediately. You better be ready for it.
yeah.
That being said, what was I?
Yeah, it's a reread, not a first read.
Yes. A lot of this will be contingent, I think that's a word, on later knowledge to talk about things in retrospect. And we have a whole section in our group notes here about foreshadowing. So, get the fuck out of here. Unless you just don't care. In that case, join. Have fun. Get the popcorn. But, the first thing we're going to do here, which we have agreed is interesting enough to include, is we're all going to go through our little personal histories with the series. And talk about how we originally got into it. I think it's some backstory that's worthy of being included in the first episode here. We'll go to Elite RE to give his personal Attack on Titan backstory first.
Okay, so I started watching the anime for Attack on Titan. I started around, say, a few weeks before Season 2 aired. So by the time I finished Season 1, it was like the week later, I just started Season 2 straight away. And I was watching that week to week. And I got like 2 episodes or so into Season 2, and I was like, okay, I just need to read the manga, see what happens. And I read it, and it was great. I like went through it pretty quickly. I think it took a few, I mean, I don't know what you define as quickly, but it took me a few weeks, I think, to get up to date, which at the time was the, if I'm remembering correctly, it was the introduction on the other side of the sea with Falco and everything. And that was great. I was really glad that we got up to the basement reveal, so I could go straight up to that and get like all the answers I wanted straight away, which was awesome. And then from there,
Lucky bastard.
yeah, it was really great. Actually, it was a good time, you know. But then I kept reading month to month. I think I would skip some months, like where I'd go and forget about it basically, and then come back and read like 4 chapters in a row. I know particularly for when say Eren and versus the Warhammer Titan, I remember reading like 4 chapters in a row and finally like getting the start and the end of that fight in like one reading, which was really cool.
He really is a lucky bastard. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
I just my forgetful nature just got it was great, worked out perfectly, you know. But then as we got toward the end, like the final rumbling arc, spoilers, I pretty much read month to month. I was on the edge of my seat, you know, and I checked out like all the discussions on the internet. And
He was watching all his Kyle Entertainment videos as they came
oh
out.
god, maybe by the time I got to chapter 137 or 8 or something, I was like, oh, who's this Kyle Entertainment guy? Let me go rewatch all of his discussions on all of these episodes, all of these chapters.
Did you really watch them all?
Yeah,
What the
I've
fuck?
seen every single discussion thing because I don't know, I like listening to them.
Jesus.
Um,
Did you watch last minute predictions too?
I think so.
The ancient, now unlisted videos. Wow.
Probably, I don't know. If it's on your
Did you
channel
get
about
bored
Attack
when you
on
realized
Titan,
it was the same video?
Oh, I probably
every
yeah.
month.
No.
Will
It
Zeke
was,
come
it
back,
was,
question
it was
mark?
very, very engaging. Okay, you make great videos. Great stream
Wow.
content. Check him out on Twitch.
That'll also be in the description.
Yeah. So then, what else can I say? I don't know. It was great. I finished. Got up to date. I love the ending. I'm interested to see. Oh, I guess that's one important thing
Bog.
that I much prefer the later stuff, like everything after the reveal of the basement, and especially the final arc, like the rumbling arc from start to end, is like it's undoubtedly my favorite part of the story.
I've since learned very recently, in the last days, that is a cowardly fucking opinion.
Really?
And you should repent.
Interesting.
But,
yeah, well, I guess that's the other thing. I'm interested to see if this reread changes my mind, and I think it has a little bit, but we'll talk about that a bit more as we go on. And that's everything.
we'll get into the weeds here. All right, that's Ari's backstory. Mr. R, would you like to give yours now?
Sure. So, mine, I can't remember all the details, but I think I started with Attack on Titan. I think I was in my second year of university, possibly the end of my first year. So somewhere around 2012, I think, is when I first engaged with it. So an entire 10 years ago.
Jeez.
Holy shit. And I can't remember if I watched the first episode of the anime first, or if I must have heard some kind of hype. And very early on, I think I watched some of the anime and then was like, okay, I can't wait for all these episodes to come out. So I picked up the manga and I blitzed through the manga. I was buying, now because I was a pure and innocent soul, I didn't actually know about piracy of manga. I didn't really know about the month-to-month release cycle either. So I was just literally buying the books as they were available. And I was consistently buying the books right up until... I can't remember the exact book number, but I think I read up to consistently near the end of the Return to Shiganshina arc, the second last book. So the last chapter that I read up to before stopping was thinking Armin had died. So I didn't get the basement reveal, I didn't get the other side of the sea, and I'd stopped at that point, and I was going to buy another book, the next book when it came out, but I then had to move down south, move into a tiny little place, didn't have room for my manga collection, so kind of just put off buying manga, and as a result put off reading manga. Years later, I hear the announcement that Season 4 of Attack on Titan is happening. Just the announcement, so I go back and watch all of it. I watch the whole thing in the anime,
There you go.
and I'm like, holy shit, it happened. And then I was like, you know what? I've watched all the anime at this point, I'm content, I'll wait, and I'll just watch it through as an anime only. Then I got spoiled that Sasha died, and I was like, well, fuck, this is going to keep happening. So I picked up the books again, and I just looked at my Amazon Kindle there, and it turns out I bought the digital versions of up to volume 31. So I think I must have started reading monthly from somewhere around volume 32 onwards, the night of the end.
Yeah.
Somewhere around that point, around 126, 127-ish.
It's always
possibly a bit
fascinated me
further
that you
because
know
of the
the volume numbers, but now it makes sense because you read the volumes. So it's always weird to me when you're like, oh yeah, volume 27. I can't even remember how many volumes there are because I barely paid attention to the volumes at all. But reading four chapters at a time. That's the way.
I very much built my entire sort of my entire Attack on Titan engagement in the early days, and even later on, until like the last 13 chapters or so, was 4 at a time in the volumes, 4 or 5 at a time in the volumes. It was great. Each volume is like a sort of mini, like they're generally quite well spaced out in terms of how they allocate the chapters. It's great.
It's a whole fucking thing. I was not as lucky. Is that the wrap up on the backstory?
I think so. It's a very erratic reading of Attack on Titan, but it fast became one of my favorite. It's fast become one of my favorite series of all time.
The man, the stopping on the Armin thing. That's a hell of an anecdote. To think that Armin was actually dead for a little while. That's funny.
And for years, I'd forgotten that the basement was even a thing. So when they mentioned it in the first episode of the anime again, or the second episode of the anime, I was like, did I ever find out what happened in the basement? And I was like, oh, I must have. I read so much of it. I must have found out. I'd just forgotten what was in the basement.
It was right there. But yes. I remember, and now that I'm just thinking about it, I remember the chapter. I'm pretty sure most people thought Armin was dead.
Yeah.
I can't remember that.
I've just got my Amazon.
The syringe is right there.
I can tell you the exact dates of everything. So I bought Attack on Titan Volume 20 in April of 2017. So I've been reading consistently since 20... Oh, I got volume... the volumes are a little bit mixed up. I think I bought some of them in actual bookshops as well. But yes, I sort of stopped reading around April of 2017, and then I picked up volumes 23 through 31 in one go on the 3rd of September 2020.
Hell of a thing.
So that's when I came back to Attack on Titan, September of 2020.
Yeah. Well, it's a wild. Everybody's little history with Attack on Titan is cute. Mine, I guess. I was a young man. No, I was not. I was barely a teenager. I was maybe 13 when I first got into Attack on Titan, maybe 12, maybe not even a teenager technically. The anime had come out the year before. I didn't get around to it until 2014. I'd heard about it vaguely. I wasn't really into anime yet. The basics I was into, you got your Dragon Balls, your Pokemon. You've got Yu-Gi-Oh!, Bakugan, Del Toro Quest. These were all things I had seen in my youth. They were always on TV. A little bit of Naruto. Did I say that? I can't remember. So Attack on Titan was basically the first anime where I knew it was anime. So I was interested, and I never looked back. Now I've seen about 15 shows. Can you believe it? So many so far. How have we come this far? But I initially watched the first 13 episodes dubbed because that was all that was out in the dub at the time. They took their fucking sweet time with that shit, as they did with the anime production a lot in those earlier years. We did have to wait 4 years, don't forget, for season 2. That was a whole meme. And then, because I have these periodic spots where I stop, so I was like, okay, I'll wait until the dub, because I'm not going to read fucking subtitles. I'm 13 years old. Fuck this shit. Subs are for losers. Ari still holds that opinion to this very day. And then it was like a day later, and like, fuck it, I'll just watch it and read the fucking subtitles. So I did that for the rest of the series. And then I was like, okay, I'm not reading a fucking manga, right? That's for losers. Ari also holds this opinion. No,
definitely not.
And so another day passed, and I was like, fuck it, I'm reading this goddamn manga. And at some point, the school library, my high school starts in grade 8 for me. It starts in grade 7 for Australian kids now. Having grade 7s through grade 12s on one campus is a little yikesy. Maybe Americans got this shit figured out with this middle school nonsense. But that's a conversation for a different day. The school library had manga in it. It had a shit ton of manga in it, unironically. So it had maybe the first 14 volumes of Attack on Titan or something. I don't think I read them all through that method, but I remember getting at least the first 3 volumes through that. Because that's something we also should point out. Ari was unsure if he had read or, in fact, hadn't read a lot of these early chapters. I think I have before this reread, because of that method of borrowing them from the school library. But for a lot of us, like most of you, I'm sure, listening to this, a lot of these early arcs, which we're kind of compiling 3 arcs, I didn't explain in the intro. This is one of the things I should have explained, that we're doing the first 18 chapters here, which is the first 3 kind of arcs. The first arc is technically just like the first 2 chapters, which is the initial breakthrough on the wall. Then we've got Trost, and then we've got the training arc, which happens after Trost in the manga through some flashbacks. Plus, we get a little bit more in the future. It's not all a flashback in that last arc. Those are the 3 arcs we're going to cover here. From moving forward, there probably won't be this many chapters in each episode. I think the Female Titan arc is 12 chapters. That's the next one we'll be doing. But the reason why I went on that tangent, I have forgotten. We were talking about whether or not we'd remembered these things. But at some point, I went online. I went on these terrible pirating sites from like 2014, which everything looked terrible. The images were terribly blurry. It was a terrible translation. Sometimes the kanji was still on the page and it was just literally pasted over it because we didn't have exceptional photoshopping pirates like we do nowadays. And I tell the story, and I assume it's true, and I'm not just telling myself that it's true, but I think the chapter I caught up to was the one where it's a fake-out death for Gene because he can't shoot the Kenny Squad girl, and in the next chapter it's revealed that Armin instead shot her Lamau. She's dead. And she also hesitated. She's kind of like us. Should we be killing each other? All these questions will be answered in a few episodes of this reread.
I think that chapter is also the end of one of the volumes as well. So I was in a similar boat where I had to wait for the volume to come out to find out what happened to Jean.
Yeah, because, what a time to be alive. The Uprising arc. I was there through everybody complaining about the Uprising arc as it happened, where it seemed like there were 7 months in a row where Historia would still be, like, looking down, seeing if she was going to eat Eren. I remember everybody complaining about that at the time. That's why that arc has such a bad reputation, even a little bit still to this day, but we can talk about that when we get to it, because it's very much expanded upon. Besides this early portion, the Uprising arc is the only thing the anime really does really differently. But we'll talk about that. We got a whole section in our notes about about anime comparisons. We'll talk about that. But yeah, since that chapter, basically every month, since like mid-2014 or whenever that was, late 2014 maybe, I was reading every fucking month. The beginning of the month, to me, was synonymous with, a new chapter's coming out soon, that's exciting. Actually, I think towards the beginning, it was always the end of the month, but then it sort of became the beginning of the month. I think Isayama only ever missed 1 month, I think.
That's crazy.
Because I remember everybody
it's also crazy
making jokes the one time he did.
Like, it's crazy to think about how young he was as well when he started. He was like, what, early 20s, I think? Like, it's crazy.
Something like that.
His first manga.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is his first published manga. I guess maybe... fuck it, I'll bring it up now. One in the Q&As, which we'll go into, because we are all reading the volume releases, even if some of us have bought them physically and some of us haven't. There is a Q&A where he says he has another idea for a manga, and this is in like volume 2, so he must have had this idea like 10 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, for as this other series that he's always wanted to write. So I wonder if we'll ever get that now. I believe at the beginning of this year he had like a tweet or an interview where he said, like, somebody asked him what his goals were in 2022 and he said not to work. So don't expect that too soon, but it will be interesting. Isayama's next project, I think I've talked about this before, what a fascinating first chapter read that is going to be. Everybody will be combing it for every little detail of foreshadowing. Is this setting up time travel in Eren? It'll be wild, especially when if he decides to go with like another mystery route. It'll be interesting to see what he's learned, if he really will plan it all out from the beginning this time, and all that
or
stuff.
If it's connected to Attack on
I
Titan.
did hear later on, a few years ago, him saying that he kind of wants to try his hand at writing a black comedy.
Oh, okay. Attack on Titan's got some like black comedy elements, I think. Well, people say The Sopranos is a black comedy, so that's the only thing I've seen that people call a black comedy. So maybe I shouldn't comment on what a black comedy is. But yeah, that was just a little neat detail that I probably wouldn't have brought up or wouldn't remembered if I didn't say it just now. But that's my history. There were a few months where I got backlogged a little bit in my long tenure, in my nearly 8-year tenure reading Attack on Titan every month. At the beginning of the Return to Shinganshina arc, I remember that. It was the very beginning stages, not when all the exciting stuff was happening, and Mr. R decided to stop reading, but at the beginning. And I remember reading like 3 chapters as a group that time. But that's my history with the series.
When did you start streaming the chapters?
Well, we were doing last-minute predictions and chapter reviews before I started streaming them, I believe. Because the reaction videos weren't streamed. I started streaming. When did I start streaming? In October of 2019, I think. and I was doing the chapter reviews from like the onset. I remember like my first few videos were wrestling videos on the old channel. And then they were Cowboy Bebop, like mini 6 minutes. Like I just watched Cowboy Bebop and thought it was bad video. And then there was like a video like the next week that was like, oh, I just rewatched the whole series and now it's great. I was a moron video. And then I think the next two videos I ever did were the Vinland Saga and Berserk chapter reviews from that month. I remember the Vinland Saga one was the one with the Arm backstory. I'll leave it like that so it doesn't spoil anybody. And I think the chapter was 111. And it was like three conversations. It was like Yelena talking to Pixis, Hanji going to get Anya Capone from like house arrest, and there was another conversation or something. I think they teased the wine plot for the first time. Now that was the first chapter review, and I believe that was scripted. At some point I started doing PowerPoints, and at some point I started doing the streams. I feel like last minute predictions might have been an invention for stream, though I can't remember. And I can't remember the first stream review we did, but those reactions definitely weren't streamed. That was all pre-stream. And I think, I can't remember if I think I was streaming even when I had the old channel. But there's a history there that I don't entirely remember. And I doubt many people were around back then. But yeah, Attack on Titan, it has shaped our lives in many different ways. How cute. Are we done with personal histories? Anybody got anything to add before we move on here? They're good? I didn't hear Mr. R say anything. And I heard the back end of what Ari said, so... Well, we're going to move on now to overall thoughts / some standout moments, and we're going to let the conversation sort of flow from here. We do have collective notes, as I think I already said, so we can read off these things. Generally, I guess I'll briefly talk about more general things. Maybe the most surprising thing is how good the art is generally. It's clear that there are certain parts of certain chapters that he spends a lot more time on. I remember the example I always went to for saying that Attack on Titan's art was good before I did this reread this time was I think it must be chapter 9 where Eren emerges from the Titan and there's like the double page spread that just looks really, really good. As he's re-emerging, and it's just like him looking like a cute little anime boy as he comes out. But a lot of it, like there are like the opening scene of even the second scene from the first chapter, which is the tree scene, the see you later Eren, etc. That scene looks really good. There's a million other examples, but that might be the biggest surprise to me. The second biggest surprise to me overall is how much more I like the characters, which a lot of these characters I already really, really like. I feel like they're all immediately likable. I feel like I care about all of them. Let's all beat up Bacon for a second, that big prick. He's always shit-talking Sasha. He's always saying, nobody cares about Sasha. I feel like I've said it a lot. Everybody pretending they cared about Sasha to get mad at Gabby. Oh, Sasha, she's alright. I like her a lot. She's doing funny things. Connie here. It is surprising how much Connie is in all of these scenes. Connie's always doing something. He's always around. He's always making an impression.
Which is funny, considering that he was just a placeholder character for the longest time. Designed originally as a placeholder character for the top 10.
It's interesting because, Mr. R brings that up every time. Undercutting Connie. You should stop saying that. It's very mean.
Listen, it just
I know, I'm
built
just
to his growth. Connie is such a good character by the end, and he's good even in these earlier stages.
It is,
which is wild that he is a placeholder. Sorry, I'm cutting you off. On you go.
No, I cut you off all the time. It's fine. The Connie is in it a lot more, like, especially in those maybe first 10 chapters. He's always around, more than Sasha. Sasha gets some more stuff, maybe in the next 8 or so chapters. Gene, I've notoriously been a Gene hater. I beat him up, I call him lame, and I put him in C tier. I like old Gene. He's pretty cool. The character interactions generally are very well done. I feel like, and I've certainly leaned into this a lot. If you've seen my previous arc rankings video, I literally put them in order of arcs. I did like all the introductory shit, then female type, and then I just went on to say like the last arc is the best or whatever. And even earlier on, I was like, teasing that I disagree with Ari. I don't think this is like better than the last arc, but I feel like this is all 10 out of 10 stuff. It was I've talked about this before. This early stuff is like Attack on Titan or just media in general comfort food to me, where it's like it's at no point was I like bored reading any of this, and I feel like the anime is a lot slower paced just because it is anime, and we've sort of got to stretch some things out, especially in season 1. There are even like literal filler stuff in there, which there usually isn't in the other seasons of Attack on Titan. A lot of it flows like much better in the manga. It's very good. I guess overall, the surprising thing is that this stuff is a 10 out of 10 to me, undeniably. I like it a lot. I like it as much as anything else. We'll see. We'll see if I continue to like things as much as I like this one. This section of our reread. But I feel like I've talked enough in my overall thoughts here. I'll give it off to either one of you who has something sprawling to say, something sporadic to say, something, what word am I looking for here? Somebody jump in.
So something for our overall thoughts, basically, is what
yes.
Yeah.
Something at the top of your mind.
I mean, I think my overall thoughts are similar to yours. Is I didn't expect to still like it as much as I did. Like, I remember liking it when I first read it, and I did do a reread when I came back to the series before reading the new books as they were coming out. I did do a reread and was like, yeah, okay. But going back, I actually have a really solid appreciation for, especially the art. Like, I really like Isayama's early art. I think there's some really nice, just the line work on it, the way it looks like every single line is sort of this hand-drawn pen line, and a bit less, I guess, digital that we see later on. I think it really works. I think it looks really good. I think it helps sell some of the action shots incredibly well. We'll discuss later when we talk about the art in general, a scene that I really fucking liked in the art style. And yeah, it's really good at setting up the characters. There's a thing I'm sure I've heard you mention before, kind of about how it's very good at just delivering a load of information without like feeling like it's just dumping a load of information. Like, there are just certain scenes where you get a lot of character interaction and a lot of world building, but none of it feels forced. It all feels very natural. It doesn't
feel expository really at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really solid. So yeah, no, it's a 10 out of 10 arc for sure. Like, I mean, obviously, if we're counting it as 3 arcs and you wanted me to break it down, maybe a little harder to assign actual individual things. But as an overall sort of introductory set of arcs, it's solid stuff. It's great.
Okay, Mr. Ari, you got anything to add over here?
I would say so I agree with you guys. It's really good. I don't know if I'd say it's 10. It's probably 10. Like, it is really good. Like, when I was reading it, when I would take a break, like say for a day or so, I'd be like, oh, I want to reread it. Like, I was looking forward to keeping reading, which is always good. I think I think I prefer this to the anime, at least what I remember of the anime. I think that's all I have to say about that. But personally, when I got to the flashbacks with the cadet training, I think that's where it easily is a 10. Like, that's for me is the best part of this early stuff, like when it got to that point. And I like
I'm tempted to agree with you there, actually.
Yep.
You could have gone either way with that. I was scared for a second. Yeah. I was like, is he going to say that's where it got slow? But no. He said it was his favorite part.
It's my favorite part, and I think it's just going to keep going from here, of just getting really good. But yeah.
Were you saying something, Mr. Rod? And we talked over you.
I was going to say the flashback. Yeah, the flashback to the cadet really worked. I mean, more so than... I mean, I've spoken to some anime-only friends who think that the anime does it well when I've explained to them how it works in the manga, and they're like, oh, I don't like the idea of there being lots of flashbacks over the course of the arc. I prefer it all, they front-loading it is fair enough. You get the boring stuff out of the way, and then they go and fight the Titans, and it's like... Yeah, oh, no.
So when I was reading, and I wasn't up to the flashback yet, so they were still in Trost or whatever, whenever it happens. But I was thinking, I'm like, okay, I don't really care. Like, I like the way the anime does it. I like the way the manga does it. Both ways are good. And I was like, I was writing notes on that and everything. But then when it actually happens and it ends and it transitions from the end of the cadets to Mako, I'm like, this is so much better.
Yes,
like, this is undeniably way better in the manga compared to the anime. Like, that transition.
One of my anime-only friends switched to being a manga reader because he couldn't be bothered waiting for season 4 part 2, And the first thing he said within like a day of saying, I'm going to read the manga and joining our manga chat, he was like, the manga is so much better with the cadet stuff. Holy shit, the transition to Marco is so good.
I completely forgotten about it.
Yep, same.
But yeah, it's so good. The way that little 4-arc part is structured, where the opening scene is not in the anime at all, where it's like Armin, Eren, and Mikasa plowing the field, looked very Villain Saga-y, because that's the only thing I've ever seen where they had to clear out trees and shit. Useless tangent, somebody's kill me. The way it's structured with like the old people saying don't become like the military police guy who is like mad that there isn't any food here, but he really doesn't care. Starting with the anti-military police propaganda here, which will come into play in a few arcs. That one's really great, and it sets up because that transitions like right into John, and then because that like 4-chapter thing is kind of about John and his decision to join the Scouts and not become that, and sort of a reiteration on his journey that has started in those Trost chapters. I feel like it works very well structurally in that sense of like bookending it with John sort of related stuff and the decision there. Obviously, we also have the last scene tacked on the end. Where Eren decides, he talks to Owen and Levi for the first time. But the structure there, yeah, I definitely prefer it to the anime. It's just the other thing I wanted to say. About the organization there. But yes, the Marco transition, I guess in case you aren't reading along with us, I guess a little bit of an explanation. It like cuts back and forth between John finding Marco's body and Marco telling him that he's a good leader. Now, I think that scene happens in Trost in the anime. I think like as they're getting their gas back after they've stormed HQ, they like sit together for a second and kind of have that scene where Marco says, "Oh, you'd be a good leader." But yeah, in the manga, it's like it's happening as John is like walking through, seeing all the dead bodies, and then he sees Marco. Because I know a lot of the meme early on, especially with anime people, was that like when the Marco thing comes up, they're like, "Who the fuck is Marco? Why does Gene care?" Like they didn't remember Marco at all. But it's impossible not to remember Marco through that journey through that chapter, because the scene, like the 2 scenes right before it, highlight Marco stuff. And sort of him letting other people ahead of him. Marco as a character is also interesting. We've got a whole section about side character characterization. But yes, Marco sort of understanding the theme of the story at the beginning. So he has to be killed off, so we can, and like we know what he says. Oh, an interesting little thing is that we never see Reiner, Marco, Annie, or Bertolt. Like, we never see them during Eren's second mission with the boulder. We have no idea where they are. Like, we do see Marco standing with Armin, right? He's like, "Armin, where are you going?" as he jumps off.
In the anime, there is a shot of Marco looking surprised over his shoulder. They do set that up.
Yes, in the anime, there's a whole John thing that isn't in the manga, where he has a little.
Okay, it's definitely not in the manga. Yeah, where John's gear, he runs out of gas or his gear breaks or something, and Marco distracts a Titan to save him.
Well, I think Marco is there, but Annie is the one that like jumps on the Titan. It's a cool thing where she jumps on the Titan's like mouth and it falls down. It's a really cool Annie moment. But Connie, I think, is the one that actually distracts him. But yeah, they're all shown to be there. They're all shown to be in the Trost thing. But goddamn, is Trost done so much better too? We can talk about all that. I feel like I monologued for like 2 minutes. Did anybody have anything to say before that?
I feel like we're injecting a bit of the manga anime differences throughout this. Like we have a section, but it's kind of going to get injected throughout. I feel like I was going to say, like again, going back to the training arc being better in the manga, it is true. There is one thing that comes from the anime one that is okay, and it works in the context of the anime, and I think in being a bit slower and setting up some of the side characters who get eaten in the Trost arc, besides Marco. We get some characterization with them. Thomas Wagner, Mina Carolina, those are really the only 2 that have like major any kind of real speaking roles, but getting to meet them first.
I always think her name is Mia. I'm so stupid. I even wrote that in the notes, but that's Gabby's goddamn fake name.
Their deaths mean a bit more because we know who the characters are. Although again, the anime only half the anime onlys I watched still think it was Reiner who got eaten, not Thomas.
Yeah,
only so much.
They do get a little bit, like the scene on the wall with Sasha and the meat, like, and you see Mina for 3 seconds and she's cute and you want her to survive.
And she says, I'll have some of the meat, That's true. Yeah, you get a little bit there, but what I mean is, like, we get more of the build-up, so when the other characters die, it means more, but...
Yeah.
I think the manga, it still works, though, because it is just kind of like, we think that some of these characters might be around because they've been named and they've had voice, and then, bam, they're just gone, all wiped out really quickly. So there's less of the emotional hit and more of just the holy shit sort of thing where characters that we know have at least had a little bit of characterization are all killed off.
It's interesting that chapter 3, I think it must be 3. They give it is 3. They give a decent amount to the couple. You'll remember their names. I can't believe I already forgot. But they get a bit of characterization. They get a scene with Eren and everything. The marriage thing, they're all cute.
Oh, right, yeah, Hannah and Franz.
Franz and Hannah, yes. Weren't you saying that we don't know whatever happened to Hannah? Like
we don't, but I think one of the Attack on Titan guidebooks, one of those supplementary pieces, I think stated that she was dead.
Yeah, it makes sense. She's sort of like helplessly staying on the ground in denial, so she probably got gobbled up. But yes, fuck, I was gonna go somewhere else with that, but I can't remember. The characterization is very efficient, I feel like.
Imagine though if Hannah had turned up as one of the Jaegerists later as well.
Yeah.
Imagine if that had been the thing, still bitter over Franz's death years later, blaming the outside world.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Fucking Samuel got out of all this shit. Moron falls off the goddamn thing, gets stabbed through the leg by Sasha, doesn't have to do shit. Shows up as Jaegers, gets shot. What a dumb fuck. Poor Samuel, he always looks depressed. I don't know. But yeah, that always sticks with me. Him getting speared through the leg by Sasha's what do you call the spikes on the gear? I would just say gear. It's cute. I
mean, he's also the fact that his name is also a fucking meme as well, because his name is Samuel L. Jackson.
I had no idea that was his name.
Yeah, his name is Samuel Link Jackson. That might be an anime-only thing. I don't think they ever gave him a surname in the manga, but in the anime, he's called Samuel L. Jackson.
Wait until you're watching House of the Dragon later this year, and you realize all the Tullys in House of the Dragon are going to be named after Muppets characters. There's Elmo and Grover Tully, unironically. So get ready for that one. Tangent, but I'm the master of tangents. Do we want to get into more peak scenes from this stuff?
Standout moments, yes.
Yes, I can bring up a few really quick. There are basically all the major moments from the early, and I want to talk about this in sort of regards to why I like doing rereads particularly. All the early big moments I feel like hit me way harder than they ever have in this reread. So if we talk about even Eren's death, or Mikas's backstory especially, the end of Trost, Eren's reemergence, all 4 of these moments, I feel like I've seen them so many times, I've seen them in reaction videos so many times that it's kind of been bastardized a little bit for me. They just kind of exist in my head and I don't really ever think about them. It's like, oh yeah, that happens, I've seen it a million times. Actually, having not experienced most of them in probably like 2 or 3 years at least, I don't know when the last time I watched the anime for season 1 was. It would have been at least that long. It really hits, and I think the manga does it very well. I really like Isayama's like paneling, and not in the way that we mean paneling, because we have a whole heading of paneling in our notes, breaking the fourth wall for you, audience. But sort of just the what do you call it? Speed. The tone? No, what?
Pace?
The pacing. That's what I was looking for. The pace of how it is laid out for all of these things I think is really good. He does a lot of, he'll do a shot and then he'll kind of zoom in on a shot at like the bottom of a page and then you flip the page and it's like, oh, big emotional moment. Marco's death, throw that into this list. All of these moments hit a lot harder for me on the reread and made me really like Mikasa a lot more, and she's already an S tier character, my favorite out of the original trio. Made me like Armin more than I do, made me like Jean more than I do, made me like Eren even a little bit more than I do, and I especially buy the Mikasa and Eren relationship. Now obviously I spent a lot of my Attack on Titan fandom shitting on that relationship a lot. This is, if you've seen a lot of my older videos, this is no mystery to you. Obviously I've come around on that generally, before this reread, but especially with the with the flashback, the Mikasa flashback here, I very much bought and thought, oh, they're so cute, which I don't think I've ever felt that before. I do want to go into all of those moments in more detail, but I want to talk about my reread thing, and then I'll let somebody else talk. I've talked about this a little bit on stream in terms of Ava, because I like to rewatch Ava like every year. And the beauty with Ava is it's very dense, so you do forget things even if you only rewatched it last year and you're like, oh, I forgot this little character interaction that is like validates everything you think about the characters. The beauty of rereads to me is sort of like you remember the emotional resonance of a moment, and a reread can sort of be good or bad in this area, but when it's good, it's like really good. So let's just take, for example, I guess I'll go for an Attack on Titan example rather than an Ava example. Let's talk about the flashback Mikasa and Eren thing. I remember, I know what we're supposed to feel in that moment. I know that it's supposed to be a cute moment where Mikasa is like sad and Eren puts the scarf around her and walks off. I remember like the base of what you're supposed to feel in that moment. But when you're rereading and it hits harder, or even if it just hits on those notes again, because you're anticipating it, it feels better. I'm doing quotation marks. It feels better in some sense to me. And I guess this is generally why I like to reread, rewatch, replay things a lot. Because when you know, it's like you remember something being good for this reason, and then you watch it and it hits all those notes and it feels better, or it's almost better than you remember. Now, obviously, sometimes it could be worse than you remember, which is very sad. I sometimes have that with lines from shows. Like I remember, this will take 3 seconds. There was a Boardwalk Empire line in the last season where I thought what Nucky said was like, oh, you can sweep the fucking sand, where he just says, and I thought he said it kind of aggressively, and then I went back and watched the scene and he just says, yeah, you can sweep the sand. And the point of that scene is to sort of understate, and that scene works in a million different other reasons. It's still a great scene, but just sort of the disconnect in my brain for what I remembered and what was actually there can sometimes be disappointing. I feel like consistently in this reread, and it happens a lot when I rewatch Ava, it's like you have the expectation of what emotional beat or how well the scene will hit that, and for it to surpass it, starting to talk like a Yank, it's the best feeling in the world. Am I making any sense? Do you have anything to say about any of that?
I had a moment very similar to that when I read the Burning Bones section.
Okay, yes. They throw that in there too, yeah. The problem is I had reread that very recently for a video, so I hadn't. And I remember I remember the anime version more, and the manga is the shading
so
and everything.
It's good. Yes, I brought that up in our art section as well, but fuck it, we'll bring it up.
Okay,
the shading on that is possibly some of the best shading in like the entire first arc. It's like because it's not like a blanket shadow effect over all the characters. It's like every single bit of the shading. It looks like a pen line again. It's so good. It looks really rough, but that's what works so well about it.
I feel like
it just
those
adds
scenes,
to it, and it makes it a very unique looking scene.
Yeah, I feel like those panels taken out of context would be some, like, you could put that in a video that says Attack on Titan art sucks in the beginning, and put those, but in context,
can't draw or something. Yeah,
in context it works so well. I know Miller gets mad because people do that with Hunter x Hunter all the time. He sends me DMs about how stupid these Hunter x Hunter people is. I assume Ari knows what we're talking about, where later art is like intentionally scratchy or something, and people will take it out of context and be like, oh, you really expect me to read the Hunter x Hunter manga? Just make more anime episodes if it looks like this, or some shit like that. I just remembered something very quickly. I think, Mr. R, you were talking about your friends not liking the flashback structure. I feel like that's another like old internet analysis talking point, where it's like flashbacks are bad and they're lazy writing or something. I just think that's fucking stupid. No offense to your friend.
You see, Attack on Titan has been built on flashbacks as its storytelling mechanism, and it's so good.
I know what people mean when they say, ugh, I'm choking on my water here. I know what people mean when they say that, because I remember watching season 1 of Lost, and the basic structure of every episode was sort of like, you'd focus on a side character, you would get their backstory in season 1, and then it would like resolve in the common, what do you call it, present time. And that can sort of be boring or frustrating. It's sort of like, oh, we're leaning on this crutch every episode. Attack on Titan doesn't do that at all, though. I guess I can understand that, but like, still, don't just parrot that point that flashbacks are bad or whatever. They can be used well or used poorly, just like everything.
They are a tool for storytelling, and and like any tool, you can use them well or badly.
do you guys want to talk about some standout moments, particularly from you? Because I feel like I hogged for a few minutes again.
I mean, I can talk. I mean, I briefly raised the burning bones one. I don't really have much to say beyond what I said for that one, but I do have another one that isn't in our little list. I actually put it in like a bit about the character interaction, but I think as a standout scene as well, it's actually one of my favorite scenes in the entire arc. I don't know why, nothing significant happens in it, but it's the post-graduation where they're all drinking and talking about what branch they're going to go into. Yeah. That entire section, I think, is phenomenal. We get
more
so
of that
much
efficient characterization, Yeah,
it's efficient characterization, but it's natural characterization as well. Like, I love the little moments where, like, Eren makes the joke about Jean's head being, was it comfy enough for him?
Yeah.
He doesn't need the interior. And then Reiner, like, spits beer over Armin laughing.
Yeah.
Just those little moments. And then, like, I like the panel of everyone laughing as Mikasa carries Eren away.
Yes.
But even then, that's still, we get a lot of information from that, because they're like, Jean, did you forget Eren's the best fighter in our class? And then it's like, oh wait, did he come second to Mikasa just as Mikasa lifts him up? The whole bit, I just think it's this really nice, organic scene, and I just don't think it's as well conveyed in the anime. Not only because it happens right after the training arc rather than right after the disaster, because but also because they don't have as many of those nice jokes, because they've already established all that stuff in the training arc, so it would be kind of weird to do it again. But establishing it when they did, it adds this nice little levity after what was a really horrific previous couple of chapters.
Yeah. There's it's interesting because I'm pretty sure in the anime that's the moment where, because I was expecting it when reading, that's the moment where Jean notices Mikasa for the first time, talks about her hair, whereas that's later in the manga, which is, I feel like, better to not undercut that moment. But yeah, that's also the second time Eren and Jean fight in the anime, so it's like all jumbled up. But yeah.
Yeah, well, for us it looks like it's the first time they're doing it to a manga reader, but then the flashback establishes it's like, oh, it turns out they probably just do this all the fucking time.
Yeah, they even
like,
say
the
in the flashback later, they're like, again, they're doing it again, and everybody's excited to watch them fight. But yeah. Ari, you want to give one of your scenes?
I mean, firstly, about all of that, I would say that it's important, at least for me, to say that I really like the anime, just generally. Like, even, like, if there are differences that I prefer some stuff, like, I generally in the manga, but the anime is very good. Just put that out there, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, I'll join in that. I like the anime. I don't dislike the anime. I just think that in almost all cases the manga's better. But I do have a couple, if we get to a couple of little things that I think the anime did do better in this first arc. So
well, all right. Well, in terms of standout moments, I've got a list, but say we're going right to the beginning. The first thing is like when you first have the Colossal Titan appear, and it's just so like unlike anything you've seen so far. Like all the Titans are really small, then you get this really big one, and it's just anything like the possibilities of the story are just so open at the beginning. There's so much mystery, and it just really makes you think like what could happen, and I just really like that, like in a story. Do you guys feel that way when you first see a Colossal Titan?
The premise is very strong.
Yeah.
Again, it leans into the mystery thing. I did my mystery tangent in some cut audio that the people aren't going to hear. But yes, a lot of the initial appeal to me in Attack on Titan was the mystery, and the Colossal Titan just definitely leans into that of like what is going on here. But yeah. Yep. Do you want to expand on that or
no, not really. That's the gist of it.
About it.
And then I got a bunch of other stuff. I don't know. So we talked about the, I guess, Franz's reveal of his lower body being missing. I thought that was really effective.
It's really good.
And I guess that, as well as the marker reveal, both of those are done with like a page turn. So like you don't get the reveal of that they're actually dead until you actually turn the page, and it's really done effectively, which I like that when they do that in the manga. What else have we got? We got the panel.
Even though I was reading it vertically.
True. That it is actually. I was reading it vertically, and then I was like, oh, surely this is like a page turn. And then I went and looked it up, and it was a page turn. And I'm like, oh, I wish I was reading it like that, but I'm not. But it still works. Yeah, then we've got the panel of Mikasa's dad holding the duck's neck. Like that was such a striking visual.
Stuff.
Yeah, it is thematic stuff, but it
is. You feel so bad for this dumb fucking duck.
Yeah, but it gets the point across so well. It's like, it's just the small things you don't realize. Yeah. So he's just so happy, and then he's grabbing the neck like a titan would grab like a human, and I'm like, man. And
sure is a food chain thing.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And the last one would be the marker reveal.
This world is cruel.
Yes, it is indeed.
We'll talk about that. Keep going.
No, that's everything. And everything just generally is just really good. There's a bunch of standout moments besides these.
Well, I want to go into some of the biggest scenes because I feel like we'll all have something to say about these. I guess we should go in order. I guess we start with the Eren death. It is another general thing, really quick. How quickly and sort of well Attack on Titan establishes all of its sort of like unique would-be famous elements, like all the things that sort of made the series iconic and I think had a lot to do with why it became the biggest anime in the world for like the 2010s, are all established very early, which is very important. The freaky giants that eat people is obviously, it's sort of just a take on a zombie story generally, the same sort of premise. It lends well to more than just like survival outposts. It lends better to like military stuff. The post-sexist like world they live in. The martial arts thing with Eren's Titan and stuff. Isayama is a big MMA guy. I don't know why he likes this fake fighting bullshit. He should be into wrestling like real men. But he likes this MMA nonsense, and obviously this gives a lot of uniqueness to the fights in Attack on Titan. People seem to say that they are choreographed very well. Isayama, again, big UFC guy. Brock Lesnar is obviously the model for Reiner's Titan, big wrestling and MMA star. And I think, I can't remember if this was a meme or not, if Paige Van Zandt is supposed to be the model for Annie's Titan. She's also very recently getting into wrestling. So what a connection. Professional wrestling. I'll bring it up whenever I can bring it up and you'll never stop me. But yes, that's another unique element. The 3D maneuvering gear, a very fascinating, unique thing, especially in the manga where he has pages explaining how theoretically the 3D maneuvering gear would work, and yeah, it's such like a weird like I don't know, autistic thing to go through, that I like a lot. A level of detail that I appreciate. There are other elements like that. Sort of the realism with the Carla scene, and obviously the moment she has before she dies after the kids are taken away by Hannes, where she has the little moment to herself about how she doesn't want to die and how she actually wants them to come back. After she does the thing the mother should do in a fictional thing in every show you've seen or whatever, she does have this descriptively real moment of like, actually, I'm really scared right now and I don't want to die. That actually might be
so well.
That actually might be played up a little bit better in the anime now that I'm thinking about it. Maybe even I'll make a concession to this terrible motion cartoon.
I was about to say that's one of my moments. The gravity of Carla's death, sorry, Kalura's
yes, they
death.
Sort of, Karula.
Just that, I think the voice actress really carries it, and the music and the pacing,
music.
And it's just the way she almost squeaks out that really sort of little "don't go" while sobbing, and it hits so fucking hard. Like,
and the
that is
blood
a scene that I
dripping
can
down
rewatch.
And everything. Yeah. It's like rain down, not dripping.
A tiny little bit. And again, like when Eren screams like stop, or the famous Yamero scream that he does, it's terrible in the dub. So poor Kyle as a child having to watch the dub of that bit. But the Japanese is so visceral, so sort of horrible to listen to him scream like that as he watches it all happen. The only thing the anime fucked up was like they had the Titan do some weird fucking thing where it like broke her back or something. I don't understand what that was about. But
it does sort of squeeze her in the
yeah, but that feels more sort of natural. This is like it behaves in a way that they don't behave pure. I feel like it's a censorship issue, so she's not being eaten alive.
Maybe I feel like it's more violent even in the anime, where like again the blood rains. I guess you do. No, you see the chomp and then it cuts away. I guess. I don't know. There are a lot of violent censorship. One that I remember just quickly, because I'll forget it later, when they're doing the little thing where they get everybody into the corner and they say, like, even still, like, just standing on the wall and luring them, like 20% of the people that were sent out died. That's, like, insane. And in the anime, I never really bought it. I was like, how? But in the manga, and this dude doesn't even die, but they showed, like, a dude coming back up from, like, hanging down a little bit on the wall, and his arm clearly got bitten off, and he's, like, nearly passed out, and dudes are, like, carrying him off to probably the medical corps or whatever. That was like a really effective. It's a really effective, and I know it's not in the anime, or at least I don't think it is. But it was really violent, and his arm is like yucky, and it's like this is still dangerous. This bloke just got his fucking arm, and he has to survive. Oh no. But But yeah, that was a little violence thing. That was like, oh, that's not in the in the anime. At least I don't think so. I could be wrong.
I'm trying to remember.
How do we feel about that?
Do you remember roughly what chapter that was?
It is at the very beginning of a chapter. It has to be like 11 or 12. But it is at the very top of the chapter, I think, in the first 2 or 3 pages. I'm known to make a thing or two up. Hopefully this isn't one of those things. But do you guys feel the same about sort of these iconic elements, or ever thinking about why Attack on Titan especially was this massive series? I think that descriptively real thing of the Carla moment and Eren dying, it did give it the reputation at the time of being the Game of Thrones of anime, is sort of that type of subversive storytelling was really coming into peak with in like the early 2010s, because obviously Game of Thrones starts in 2011. The Walking Dead is starting around this time, which is probably a better like comparison for Attack on Titan, and sort of characters getting killed off all the time. But yeah,
a bunch of the books that I've got say on the back as reviews, Japan's equivalent of The Walking Dead.
Yes,
that was like
I think,
a big review meme going around.
I think I've seen that.
And
yeah.
I think they're referring specifically, possibly to the Walking Dead comics rather than to the TV show, or it could very well have been the TV show. I don't know. I can't remember what the state of culture was, but I know that I feel like back when it first came out, we weren't feeling exhausted with zombie media. We were like, I think it was like just we were about to get the resurgence of zombie media. I think 2013 is also Last of Us, right?
Because I feel like The Last of Us got a bit of that, where it was like, oh, another zombie thing. They could have been talking about the Walking Dead game too, right? That came out before 2013. Well, I guess it's anime, not manga stuff, huh? Manga started in 2009. But
oh, actually no, sorry. This is the Japan's equivalent to The Walking Dead. Is on the back of the book. It says praise for the hit anime. Japan's equivalent to Walking Dead. English publication is so weird the way they try and mix the media adaptations together on the book. They use the book art to sort of sell reviews for the anime. It's weird.
Anything to The Walking Dead, I know that. Oh, I'll buy this thing then. That's the goal. But yeah. I feel like the iconic moments like that, like in terms of like the martial arts stuff, I've always been a anti-action boy. I've always been like, action, what nonsense. Obviously, I don't think that anymore. But did the sort of the Titan martial arts type action scene ever stand out to either of you, or appeal to either of you specifically?
I thought there was. I'm trying to think. Some of the shots with, like, are you talking more about specifically like Eren fucking wailing on Titans?
Well, I'm sort of just saying, like, generally, I guess this becomes more apparent, especially in the female Titan arc, and then the Reiner and Eren fights and stuff like that. Before we get a lot of crazy weaponry and stuff coming in the later arcs, but yeah, it's just one of the, like, I don't think that's really in many other shows, and even the close combat stuff and the any stuff we get at the end of this group of chapters we read, sort of leans into that. I feel like I'm just trying to think of like the unique things, because it is remarkably unique in a lot of ways, where people sort of go on about generic anime and manga type things all the time, and how a lot of it feels or looks or has the same sort of themes or whatever, and Attack on Titan is kind of remarkably unique in this way. And it might be because it's from like a weird, obscure magazine. Like, this isn't a Shonen Jump thing. I don't know how obscure, what is it, Bisetsu or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But maybe they allow a little bit more variety.
Wasn't Kodansha on the verge of bankruptcy until they picked up Attack on Titan?
Didn't
Attack on Titan save Kodansha Comics from bankruptcy? I feel like...
Potentially. It fucking made a lot of money, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, anything about the uniqueness? Does anybody have anything to say about that?
I think it did reach some of the uniqueness. Something else that kind of comes into this, again, going back to the design of the Titans. So in the West, we've sort of always had a very familiar idea of what Western zombies are for the longest time. And one of the reasons I've always sort of heard that the reason like a lot of Japanese media in general, like Japanese horror, for example, scares us is because it's so different. It's so weird. It's so uncanny to what we're sort of used to. And I think that's that perfect blend. It's almost like a Japanese take on the zombie.
Yeah.
On like the zombie thing. And it adds this really unique twist, and it makes it incredibly uncomfortable. All the things that the Titans do are very reminiscent to what zombies do. But there's just something weird about them. They're not like rotting corpses. They're not. They're like vaguely like us, but they're also creepily different as well.
Yeah, there's because zombies sort of like hiss at you and they make like a loud noise and scream and run in your direction, or sometimes they don't run specifically. But like the Titans, there is something to be said about how creepy they are. Maybe even more so than being scary, though they are very scary. Where it's sort of like they're weird. They seem almost socially unaware in a way where they obviously can't have social awareness. They are fucking weird, mindless Titans. But it's like, I think of whenever they're in pain and like they don't react at all, and that sort of inhuman response and how sort of creepy that is. Like they'll get stabbed and they'll just turn around and look goofy and look at you and you're like, oh, you're fucking dead, brother. I'm sorry. But yeah, something about the Titans. The Titans are a big component to this uniqueness or why the series blew up, I think. There is something wacky and terrifyingly creepy about them. But yeah. What did you say before that? Did I just go off on a completely unrelated thing?
No, I was saying that like it's kind of like it's got that uncanny take on like zombie on what we are as zombies, which is in the West, zombies from what I understand are large now. I may be wrong on this, but actually I feel like zombies actually have their origins in African media, not Western media. But like the mainstream understanding of zombies comes from a very Western depiction and Western interpretation of the living dead. And I guess like to see a Japanese take that is like it's got enough similarity that you recognize it, but it's different enough to just make it feel a bit uncomfortable and a bit, and that's what makes it creepier. It works really well, is what I'm basically saying.
It's good. That's how we could summarize a lot of what we say here. Talking about the scene, I don't know if I remember having too much to say about the Eren death scene specifically. We kind of talked about generally what it means overall for the story. Obviously, it's not actually a death scene. Recalling it now, I feel like the better scene is the scene we get after he reemerges from the Titan, where we see his perspective as he goes into the stomach and he reaches up and freaks out, and there's the one person that's also still kind of alive in there calling out for their mommy. And then he has this will moment and he puts the arm up and it goes right through the Titan's mouth and right in front of Armin, who's glazed over at this point. But I feel like that scene was really, really, really incredible. Anything to say about this scene particularly?
I agree.
Do we remember this scene?
I do remember that scene. I always forget that Armin's in it.
Yeah.
It just still sat there catatonic, but it also goes that nice little way of explaining how he survived and didn't get eaten by Santa Titan.
It also plays into the you need a motivation to transform and things. That's why he transforms for the first time. Clearing up that loose end and everything like that. I
just want to say, this is, I mean, I was wondering, I can see you're hovering over that bit that you want to talk about there, Kyle.
I'm just doing this with my mouse. It's, I do want to talk about these. I do want to get to that part, but I kind of want to go chronologically, but yes. I guess the Eren death scene is good. The flashback to Armin. When Armin nearly goes down. When Eren throws Armin out again, it's one of those moments again where it hits harder than I think it ever has. There's an important setup for a good moment I'm going to talk about where obviously Eren puts out his arm, and Armin goes to grab it, but he misses it, and the arm falling. I think it might be a redraw in the when Armin's remembering it later, but the one shot of just like the arm falling down, I really liked that shot. But if we go in order, the next one would be the next really big scene is the Mika's flashback stuff. Again, I found this the best. This was the most I'd ever loved this scene. It's interesting. This is sort of something people bring up all the time. It's interesting that the brand or the mark on her arm is only very, very, very briefly brought up. Like we don't see the A with the swords for the well, it's not for the Ackerman clan. It's for the Hiruzen people. It is what is the country called?
Hizuru.
Hizuru, the Hizuru people. It's funny that it's an A, but it's not the Ackerman thing. I feel like we had seen it before she reveals it in like the Blast arc at some point. I don't know when we see it.
No, we haven't. We get that one little nod, and then nothing happens with it until Kiyomi shows up.
Okay, that's interesting. What was I talking about? Oh, the flashback. Fuck. This is I guess the downside of not having the page up for me. But I remember just the paneling of the pages, and her awakening moment is very effective. We get like a shot of her brain and then her like bloodstream, and it shows like the activation. I remember always thinking that was a retcon, like on my initial read through when I was reading month to month, like the Ackerman awakening, this is some stupid shit. But in retrospect, it's like clearly there from the beginning. It's clear something is happening. The shot of the brain, the shot of the bloodstream, her breaking the knife in her hand, breaking the board underneath her foot, charging right through. It's really, really good. I don't think I ever processed the like implication when I was younger, when I was like 12 or 13 watching this for the first time, of like the underground sex ring that Mikas was nearly sold into. It might be the darkest thing Attack on Titan ever does by implication. I guess there's the stuff with Levi's mother that's also similarly dark in sort of a sexually violent way, where the manga tries to basically stay away from completely. But yeah, it's kind of creepy. You're like, oh, kill these pricks. Eren comes through and does it. His attitude throughout the whole scene is like alarmingly kind of terrifying for being 9 or however old he's supposed to be. But the biggest thing, and I want to come to my dumb bird talking point here. The best stuff is afterwards. Mikas, we didn't. I'm forgetting things we haven't brought up in this recording. Mikas's characterization, we'll get into this more later, but it is very different to me at the beginning of the manga here. And she sort of starts to develop into the Mikasa everybody thinks of towards the end, where she is a little bit more protective of Eren. Mikasa initially is very... I once compared her to Rei as like a joke, and the more I think about it, the more it kind of works. Rei from Evangelion. I'll bring up Ava every fucking 10 minutes. I don't give a fuck. But where she's sort of emotionless in a weird way, and it makes her very cute. She sort of always has like this light frown on her face, especially in the first chapters. So her characterization is a little different. So when she's very sad at the end here and she's like, I have no place to go and things like that, and Eren puts the scarf around her, it is a very like heartwarming, like, oh, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen moment. The point I wanted to bring up in regards to the bird, and after this, I'm going to let the others speak for a little while. Eren puts the scarf on her, and they have the moment, you can come home with us. She specifically brings up how she's cold, and obviously it means two things. It's cold outside because you can see their breaths, and it's literally cold, but she's also, the world is cold or whatever, she's lost her family. Eren puts the scarf around her. It fixes both those things. It makes her warm, and her heart warm, because now she has a new family that she'll develop to have. And the last thing Eren does before the flashback ends is he tugs on the scarf. And what does this fucking bird do in the last chapter? It sort of like circles around the scarf and then it tugs on it. So the last scene in the manga before the bonus pages is a callback to this moment in the flashback where Eren tugs on her scarf. And it's sort of a similar moment of crisis for Mikasa. I'm just thinking of this now. Mikasa's crisis here is that she lost her family the first time, and then she nearly loses her family through Eren here, but it turns out he's alive. Her sort of nightmare of going through losing her family again does happen at the end of the series by her own hand. It's fucked up, it's great. We'll talk about it when we get there. And for her, the tug, again, allows her to move on. We see her with Jean. Yes, it's Jean. Get over it, kids. Yep. In the bonus pages, she clearly moves on and has another family after this. So it is a callback to that. And maybe I would have been a little bit more negative on the scarf stuff before this moment, but now that I like the scarf moment more than I ever have before and sort of what it symbolizes, and I like their relationship more than I ever have, especially in this cute way before we talk about whether or not it's when it starts to develop into a romance, it was really, really, really cute. Yeah. And I slapped my forehead when I figured out the tugging.
I can't believe it. Like, it's such a like, I'd never realized that. But yeah, because when I was reading 139 and before like the epilogue came out, I was like, what is this? Like, why is it ending on this? Like, it's such a weird, like, high level abstract thing. And I'm like, okay, so if this bird symbolizes Eren, he's pulling it, it's like, go and live your life or something. I'm like, what is this what's happening? But it's such a great callback. Like it's obviously like a reference to what's happening here, and it just makes it work so well. And now, like when I go and read 139, which I've read like a million times, like I love the ending now, like the final bit of it, which I'd never really loved until like you said that. It's so great.
God, I broke our cardinal rule and I brought up the chapter because I'm evil. But I love the paneling here. There's nothing in the background. It's just the two of them. There's no place for me to return to. It's cold. Eren is very cute here too. And the way he puts it on Mikasa, sort of like without care, and it sort of covers half her face. And she like grabs onto it and she's slowly figuring out what happens. And Grisha's being really nice here. And then she cries, "Okay, let's go home," she says in confirmation. And then the moment after this, where she's like killed a bunch of Titans and they get the evacuation bell, she's immediately completed her mission. She runs off and she has the little tragic monologue that turns out to not be so tragic, where she says, "In this world, I've got a place to go home to, Eren. As long as you're around, I can do anything." Again, this plays into the end of the series overall, where she sort of has to deal with the fact of this false promise here of Eren's death is eventually lived up to. But it's very like, oh... And it sets up brilliantly, like, what's Mikasa going to do when she finds out? Because if you are reading for the first time here, well, I assumed immediately when I was 13 that Eren was still going to be alive somehow. But it does a clever job of sort of setting Mikasa up, because she immediately gets a backstory right after this, of her potentially being a main character moving forward. Or the main character, not just a main part of the trio. But my God, is it fucking good. I really, really like the flashback more than I ever have. But I'm going to let you guys talk about something.
I mean, I think you've covered basically everything on that point, unless Ari has something for that specific point.
Well, about the backstory?
It was
specifically?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Or if you have another scene
on that specific point. I mean, I have one more scene, 1/2 more scenes. One of them is literally just, it's cool, and then the other one I think is quite significant and ties into the next big point.
Yeah, we got to split up.
I'll quickly mention, because it's a quick scene, the double page spread where we first get Levi rescuing the trio.
It's cute
with the Wings of Freedom. It's really good. It's a really nicely drawn shot. Like, a lot of work went into that spread. It's great.
Yeah.
But the scene that I really liked, because for viewers' reference, I will bring up Rico whenever I get the opportunity to. I say rip to our real one. The emotional rip, because she ended up becoming a fascist, which is horrible. There's just a couple of little panels after Eren plugs the wall. You know, Rico's been with them the whole time. She's the only survivor of the garrison. She's the only one who's still alive. The only commander, yeah. Her, like, all the
she might just be the only one.
Yeah, we've seen Matabi. Well, we see that her, I think her entire squad gets wiped out because Armin's with someone who says our squad's gone. Matabi and Ian's squad sacrifice himself by standing on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Rico, Matabi, and Ian. Those are the three captains or the three commanders. So Rico's the only one who survives, and then she gets this couple of little these couple of small panels where the weight of everything of what's just happened has truly been established, and it's like, you know, how much we've sacrificed. Yeah, let's see if I can find the exact line. It's like, everyone didn't die in vain, and then
hold on, I have it up.
Today, the human race won its first victory.
Yeah.
It's if you are looking for it, it's chapter 14.
Yeah, I got it
right
up.
After Eren plugs the wall, because you get the really nice full page of Eren plugging the wall. You get the reaction shots from Armin and Mikasa, and then there's just this disbelief and the single tear welling up on Rico's face.
Pixis is just so good in these scenes too. Oh, Pixis, what a character!
And it is, and there's just that weight on top of the characters of what they've had to suffer and endure, and as we find out, the casualty levels from 20% of the garrison died in Trost, plus God knows how many recruits died in Trost as well.
It's such a great also setup for what comes next of like, well, the scouts are in the story now, and that's sort of where we go from here. We've done the garrison stuff. Scouts turn.
Yeah, people can expect anytime Rico appears up until the very last chapter in these talks, I will have something to say.
Yes. The single panels of like Mikasa and this moment is so good. I guess, should I go into the general moment, because my last big scene I want to talk about. Oh no, I want to talk about Eren coming out of the Titan too. Fuck. Hold on, you had one more.
The Titan.
What did you say?
You'd already talked about Eren coming out of the Titan. That's what you just talked about for like
boy.
the last 5 minutes.
Did I? Wait, no, I didn't.
Oh, you mean when he's...
Oh, him getting eaten. I mean him re-emerging. I talked about the art, but I want to talk specifically about another thing. I haven't talked about my big talking points there. But you said you had another one first.
damn.
We should do that one. Yeah.
Oh no, mine was just the double page shot of Levi rescuing the trio.
Okay.
Like it was just it was very minor. Those were, and I've already talked about the other things like the them drinking and everything and the burning of the bones and stuff. Like
Yeah. God, burning of the bones.
Everything else falls under other categories, which we might get to at some point.
About Eren coming out of the Titan, there is a specific moment. There are a lot of things, a little detail that are like things that have always been in front of my face, but I never fully processed until this read through. A little tiny example of this is when Connie gets lifted up by Shardis and he's like bullying him. I never really understood what that scene was about, and it was only in this read through because they have a close up of Connie's salute that I realized that Connie saluted the wrong way, and that's why Shardis gets pissed at him and lifts him off the ground, and Connie's like fucking passed out because he's getting his fucking brain squeezed. That was a little thing.
Haven't you watched the anime tons of times?
Yes,
because it's
I've heard him
explicit in
say.
the anime.
I heard him say, "Is your heart on the right side?" But I didn't think he meant direction right. I thought he meant like right as in the good side.
Oh, that's
It
great.
only clicked all with me for the first time. This is like when I found out what pedals were for the first time on stream, and everybody made fun of me. Eren goes on this rampage. They all want to stop. First of all, the way this is built up at the end of this chapter is incredible, where like everybody gets on the roof and is sort of in awe, and the pacing and the tone and everything. We really can't explain that. And I was thinking, even if I wanted to make videos about how good these first chapters were, at least in this regard, I don't think you can really explain it in a video. You just sort of got to read it and you're like, oh my God, the pacing and the tone here is so fucking good. But everybody's sort of on the roof, looking at Eren getting eaten, and they're like, what the fuck? How did this happen? Who is this bloke? What the fuck? And then he like goes after Thomas, and it's like the last hint before it's revealed that, oh, obviously this is Eren, dummy. But they're all, and obviously it's great in retrospect because the characters on the roof are the 3 Titan shifters, Jean, who is like not in awe, and then Mikasa and Armin, who are going to freak out when Eren comes out here, and obviously the shifters know what's going on. Ymir isn't here, but the other 3 are. Then he comes out, and there's like the reaction shots from Mikasa, again, because I buy into the Mikasa-Eren relationship and her caring about him more than I ever have. Like her reaction here of like stunned, and then she like immediately drops down, and again she's still like emotionless, and she doesn't, I guess she's holding back her emotion more than she's emotionless. Her expression is sort of emotionless. She sort of like jumps down and she can't sort of believe it, and there's these slow zoom ins on this page of like her slowly like letting herself believe it, and she like hugs him initially, and it's very cute, and then she puts her head on his chest and hears the heartbeat, and she starts welling up, and it's really, really cute. And then she screams, and then Armin takes a little bit longer to process what the fuck is going on, and then he thinks about, and there's even this one panel of them nearly grabbing each other's hands when Eren's reaching out of the Titan. And then, because this is something I remember, but I only just got the importance, he grabs Eren's hand, and he like completes the grabbing that he didn't do when Eren reaches out of the Titan, and then he starts to well up. What a moment!
I'd never realized that either. That's a great point. Man.
Yeah, stop making fun of me for flower petals, you prick. It's so good. I really, really like this shit. God damn, is this shit good.
I just want to add, I like the chapter title, which is like the beating of a heart could be heard. I really like chapter titles.
Yes.
I think it's really fitting for this, because that's what really is the purpose of this chapter.
It's so good. God, this Attack on Titan nonsense. 10 out of 10. What did I say? That's really all I had to say about that. Again, I'm picturing us talking right now to a lot of people probably aren't going to read along with us. They don't have the fucking time investment to do that, but they're just listening. I'm telling you, you fucking idiots. Reread this goddamn shit. Rereads are important.
Yep.
It's so good.
If you've only seen the anime, read the manga.
And also appreciate how fucking good as well. Now I'm just going to bring this up now because I think it's something that's just going to get peppered throughout anyway. How fucking good Eren's Titan design is in like every shot.
Oh, it's fucking, what a sexy 15-year-old this fucking bloke is. My goodness gracious me.
God.
Clip that one out of context.
Anyway.
The Titan I'm talking about here, alright?
Izuyama's
He's
art
got
for
fucking
the Titans,
9 abs.
10 out of 10 from the beginning. Like, really.
And there's like so many appearances. Like every time Eren first appears out of the Titan, there's always this fucking amazing sort of shadowing work being done on it. Again, I'm just a big fan of good shadowing work.
God, this 2-page of Eren is good. God damn it!
When he transforms to move the boulder, and there's that shot of him sort of the half sort of forming Titan, sort of leaping towards the boulder. That's so fucking
and
good.
He crashes
even
into
if it
the
has
building.
that.
So good.
Even if it has that cringe line you don't like, how it's time to begin
That was
our attack on
Ari's.
Titan.
That was Ari complaining about
was
that
that
line.
Ari?
Very,
Sorry.
yeah, I don't like that.
My apologies.
It'll be our first attack on the Titans, alright? Pixar said it. You gotta love it. But yeah. Should I move on to the trust final thing now, and then all my big moments that I really wanted to talk about will be out of the way? I'm getting it up again. I'm destroying our rule set of not bringing up chapters as we talk about them. The ending of this fucking goddamn
pages this whole time.
Yeah. The anime sucks. Let's get this out of the way. This fucking coward. Oh, first of all, I think maybe my favorite piece of art is at the beginning of, I think it's 13, which I'm on now, is this Pixis shot of him like walking along the wall. My boy Pixis. Let's not talk about him because we got to talk about things that the laptop's going flat. But my god, do I love this fucking man. He's just on his shit. But if we skip to the end, I think I'm on the wrong chapter. I am. What a fucking disgrace I am. The ending of Trust is very different. Now, they have the cool song in the anime. I think they play, what's it called? Reluctant Heroes. It's a good song. I like it a lot. In the fucking, maybe it is made explicit in the anime and I'm just not remembering it right. In that case, my deepest apologies to the anime. But the fact that it's made very explicit, and even on retrospect, I remember Ian, alright? I know he gets decapitated and that's fucking traumatizing and shit. I remember his death. So going into this, I remember Ian. I remember the other bloke, I didn't remember his name, Mitabi, I forget his name. I still can't say it properly. And Rico, of course.
Mitabi, yeah.
Yeah. I remember him like sacrificing, and I could never tell if he had like a crush on Mikasa. I think he just admires her. I don't think it's anything weird. But like Mikasa was with him earlier in like chapter 6 before she runs off to go find Eren. That's like when she saves Louise and shit. We can talk about Louise in a little bit more detail later. Her father shows up. You get to see him. We don't really ever find out his fate, I don't think. But again, I'm saying we'll go on a tangent later and going on a tangent now. So I remember these characters, and Ian is in it a bit, and he, like, going back and reading when he says, like, when Rico wants to pull out, and he's like, no, and Pixis has this monologue at the same time where he's like, the Alpha Squad will know what to do, like, they're our best, they understand that we have to make the stand here or we're just fucked in perpetuity, which is why Pixis also doesn't give the evacuation order even when Rico sends up the failure thing. Oh my god, just fellas hitting it on the fucking head, hitting the nail on the head here. Old Ian here, it's kind of tragic in retrospect is what I'm trying to build to when he says like, no, we are not retreating, we will die for Eren if we have to, and obviously he and everybody there except for Rico does die, and it's sort of like, I don't know, there's something very tragic about this boy Ian. It's something about his face where you're like, oh, he's like giving up everything here, like he's never going to find out what the fuck a Marley is. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think as well, like this comes to an anime comparison. In the anime, Ian's death is I guess a little bit more heroic, because he saves someone else.
He throws the dude out. That is cool. Result. But yeah, it's
pretty
very
cool.
Different
but at the same time, I feel like the manga almost again helps us emphasize almost the pointlessness, like the there's no glory in the deaths that are happening. There's no glory in this war. It is just sacrifice.
Yeah,
no glory to be had. They die scared and screaming, and they die terrified.
Is kind of. No, go ahead.
There's just nothing beautiful. I can't remember. There was something. I can't remember what it was. There was something about this. There was like, I think it was like some YouTube video that I saw on some series analyzing themes about dying and about like a certain piece of media and how it approaches death and how no one dies some glorious death for some, with some epic fanfare. It may have even been about Attack on Titan. They all just die scared and pointless deaths that, whilst in the long run are advancing stuff, it's very hard to sort of quantify that when you just look at the sheer scale of the devastation that had to happen and how many people were sacrificed. And it is just that, it's sacrifice. As you said, they're literally feeding themselves to the Titans. Sorry, I didn't mean to the Titans. Don't want to steal your line, but it's too fucking good to not steal.
It is insane that, like, the Ian never gets a mention. Like, after this sacrifice, like, this is a big fucking moment. I feel like he should be more heroically refined, or everybody should pray to Ian like they pray to the fallen scouts, but they don't because he was in the garrison. It's a little mean. Stand up lad, this Ian fella is here, and all of them for, like, literally, because they literally decide here, which is not made explicit in the anime. I think I was building up to this point, but I went on a fucking dumb tangent. They literally say, like, like, we have to run on foot where we can't use our maneuver gear to get the Titans that are right in front of the hole out of the way. We literally have to make them eat us so they're distracted, so they won't attack Eren, so we can get the boulder in. I don't think this is made as explicit in the anime. I feel like they just say we have to distract them, and then they show Mikami. I want to say Mikami every time. That's the dude from Death Note. His squad initially does this, and I feel like in the anime that happens, and then he gets crushed by a boulder or something. But here, it's like, no, they literally run around on the ground, away from anything they can latch onto, because it's the only way to get Eren to put the boulder in the fucking hole. And they all run, and they all realize that they are literally going to die because this is a good enough moment to die for. And I feel like it is a little heroic, like in the moment for Ian, it's not heroic at all. But Eren, like, looking back, and even when he's in the last chapter we read in 118, he has like that really cool art panel where he remembers all the tragedy. He remembers his mother. He remembers one other thing. He also remembers Ian getting decapitated in the mouth of the Titan there. So he has given Ian a little bit of a shout out there. But Eren also has a big monologue here that I don't have time before the battery goes flat in this session to read out, but I guess I will do it next time, where he has the whole monologue about what actually freedom means to him, and he explains it, and this is intercut with everybody dying and Ian sort of looking back as he gets fucking decapitated by this fucking Titan, and Mikasa and both Armin look at him and sort of in acknowledgement of like what the sacrifice here means. And yeah, just the moment of success after that of Eren plugging the hole and Armin yelling, "Go, Eren," and Eren coming to the end of his monologue. It's a fucking incredible goddamn moment. Them literally feeding themselves to the Titan cannot be understated. They literally decide, we will get eaten. Not like, we will go and fight and potentially die against these Titans for Eren to get this fucking boulder in the hole. We will let ourselves be eaten horrifically by Titans for him to get the boulder in the fucking hole. Incredible stuff. So this freedom monologue, I want to read this out loud because a big meme, especially with me and Minty, rest in peace, even though he's kind of still around. We always joked about that freedom was never really clearly defined in Attack on Titan, or we'd always be like, are we going to find out what freedom is next chapter? That would be a thing in the last minute predictions thing. Eren kind of answers it here, but it's still kind of confusing to me, so I'm going to read it out, and then we can all give our thoughts. This obviously all happens as this fucking scene, this incredible goddamn scene, is happening. I try to scroll up on the page here, because Eren is monologuing a little bit before this, but then, here we go. This is when he starts, and this is overlaid with terrible shots of garrison people all either already dead, about to be eaten by Titans, or in the process of being eaten by Titans, as Eren walks forward. So he says, when we're born, all of us are free. And then we get the shot of the kidnappers again. He's reflecting on that. People who reject that, no matter how strong they are, don't matter. The burning water, the land of ice, anything will do. Anyone who saw those things would be the freest person in the world. Fight. Who'd value their life over something like that? It doesn't matter how terrifying the world is. It doesn't matter how cruel the world is. More shots. Ian getting decapitated in the Titan. Mikasa and Armin seeing it, but continuing on, turning back to focus on helping Eren. Eren continues marching on. He says, fight again, fight again. As we get more action panels, Rico comes in, gets this prick in the eyes. He's the last Titan in the way. Mikasa chops it up. Eren's going for it. Then he screams, fight one last time, as he throws the boulder into it. And Armin screams, go, Eren. Incredible fucking scene. But in terms of freedom as a concept, what it means to Attack on Titan, whether it's colored good or bad, obviously here it's supposed to be a good thing. Eren reiterates this later, especially with the people who would take our freedom are like worthless and we basically should kill them. Obviously, core themes and changing context in Attack on Titan. These themes tend to change. They're applied in a good circumstance here and a bad one later. I still honestly don't know how I feel about it. It seems like the parallel is being made here for like your lives to freedom, because anyone who would take your freedom, as in take your life, or I guess they weren't going to take Mikasa's life, they were just going to sell her into wonderful sex slavery for the rest of her life. How joyous. But where she wouldn't be free. So I guess it isn't that. But freedom. You guys going to enlighten me here? Do you know exactly what the fuck is being said here?
What specifically?
what is freedom? What does
Oh,
Aaron
well.
mean by freedom is basically the question I'm asking. Do we have enough context here? Does this monologue... Because this monologue is supposed to be like his explanation, I think at least, where it's like... It ties freedom into wanting to see the wonders of the world, and that being the freest person in the world. I'm still not sure. I was wondering if you guys were. What was going through your head as you were reading this monologue and all sorts of things like that? Anywhere we can go from here.
This particular, it's kind of hard. Like, it's kind of hard to divorce this particular monologue from what we kind of know about Eren later on. Like, you almost get that kind of the vibe, that freedom vibe of the sort of obsessive freedom without really thinking about what that involves. You know, like whenever you see anything going down in the States, you know, that, freedom is more important than anything. Freedom. You know, freedom is more important than saving lives. Freedom is more important than this. Freedom is more important than that. But the freedom is basically just freedom to be selfish in that instance. I mean, I don't know if there's a direct comparison there. Like, we still don't know what kind of... I guess I don't even know if Isayama really knew what sort of political sort of climate he was mirroring. And this was obviously 11 years ago when things were or at least appeared a little bit different.
Yeah. This goes back to an old meme point I had about Attack on Titan potentially being anti-American, and this whole freedom thing was colored bad, and the we only wanted to invade Paradis for resource thing. There are certain people get very mad whenever I bring this point up. It is interesting, whereas if freedom was colored bad, but I don't think that is really what it is ultimately. I think Aaron's view of freedom might just be misconstrued, or it might be that you can take freedom to obviously mean good and bad things, or be implemented in good or bad ways. But Mr. Are you going to say something?
I was just going to say, I mean, that thing you made about it being anti-American, there's definitely an element of that. I mean, like, there was that really good... I guess that TikTok series that I linked to you a while back about the analyzing Attack on Titan from a non-Eurocentric perspective, where if we look at Marley as America, as the USA, and the Eldians in the internment camps as Japanese American citizens who were interned in almost basically concentration camps in World War II America, and then we look at Paradis with its decision to erase everyone's memories as Japan choosing to erase its history over shame, funnily enough, and like the interesting parallels that creates. I don't know.
The hard thing about direct allegories like this, or even saying Attack on Titan is anti-American or things like that, it's very... There are obviously times where it's clear works are doing direct allegories, and authors might even talk about that. Not that I personally care about whether or not the author would say something, but it is always like a lot of speculation when you want to make direct comparisons like that. I know it's something fun to think about. I don't know if we would ever have enough evidence to say definitively what's being said here. And stories generally comment on things sort of more vaguely than that, concepts more vaguely than direct political things. But I don't know. I'm still confused about this fucking freedom nonsense. Ari, do you know?
I was just looking through my notes because I made a lot of notes for this bit, and most of it was like, I don't know what's going on here. So there's just generally, like, I've got something here about what does it mean? What have I even got here? Okay, let me. So why do you want to go to the outside world? Because essentially I've got a complaint about, or not a complaint, I'm just trying to understand what it means to want to go to the outside world because he was born into this world.
Born into this world.
Like,
I still don't get it.
So I've got a few like things I wrote down. Like the first is, does he mean since I'm alive, I have the right to explore the world? Does he mean since I'm alive, I have the desire to explore the world? Or is he saying it's my world, so I can do whatever I want, so it's more of a selfish thing? Yeah. Or is he saying it's my world, I have a right to conquer it, or something like that? Like it's hard.
And again, that's more interesting when you like connect it to the end of the series, obviously, and what Eren will eventually do. He also connects it to fighting a lot, right? The Tatakai thing goes right into this because he yells "fight, fight" as he's giving this monologue, and obviously, the fight thing is easier on itself to like piece out because it's obviously like, don't just let things happen to you, put up some resistance, fight for like what you believe and what you want. These are easy messages. Most people would say, gotta teach the kids.
I think it is
this freedom stuff.
I feel like the freedom thing is just it's that freedom, like, because I was born into this world, I think it is the freedom to see the world, the freedom to explore the world. And at the start of the series, the Titans are what's standing in the way of that freedom. So that's why he fights the Titans. But then when he discovers that it's been the entire world, mankind standing in his way, that's like what motivates him to. I know obviously there's the whole time travel stuff and all that, but he said he would do it anyway, which I firmly believe he would have based on everything we've seen up to that point.
Yeah.
Like, I was convinced that Eren was just gone full bad guy, and that would have been a totally acceptable ending.
No, go ahead.
So I guess, like, as I said, he's always just hate. I feel like freedom is just almost a nebulous concept. I feel like if you're born into this world, you have the right to be in this world without restriction. And he views the Titans, he views the walls as the restrictions, he views the Titans as restrictions, and then the rest of the world are the restriction. At that point, I guess.
Yeah, it gets sort of like into the idea of inalienable rights, I think is the right term, where it's sort of like you're born and these are like things that in an ideal world, all these things should be respected in all people.
I have another point I just thought of,
Go ahead.
I'm not sure if this is relevant, but so he's got the line where he's talking about like the water, the ice, and like anyone who sees that would be the freest person in the world, right? But what eventually happens is that he becomes, in a way, omnipotent, where he can see everything, and that ironically takes away his freedom in a way. Like his ability, like he achieves what he wants to achieve, and he can see those things that he's wanted to see. And the moment he sees them is when he loses his freedom. So I don't know what that's saying, and how that comes into all this.
That, right?
Sorry, what?
Are you saying when he kisses his story's hand is when he loses his freedom, right?
No,
when he binds with the founding
or when he
Titan.
reaches the ocean.
Yeah, when he finally has Yumia's power and he's able to see whatever he wants and influence the past and Bertolt and everything.
At that point, the Zeke moment, the Yumiya moment. Okay,
I think it's the Yumiya moment. Like, I think at that point is when he loses his quote unquote freedom. Even, I mean, I don't know if that's true because it kind of implies in the final.
I mean, I think
it's
he becomes a slave to his own fate though. At that point,
yeah,
because that's why I think we always saw him as looking so dejected after he kissed Astoria's hand, because he saw that he was effectively a slave. It's why he took such offense to Armin calling him that, and he was just a slave to the fate that he had to set in motion.
Yeah, it's I just jotted this down, and I think I've thought of this before. Is sort of Eren, because part of Attack on Titan is sort of the non-linearness of time and sort of how this is all happening at once or whatever, which is a paths thing. And Eren kind of being like a force, like he is the Attack Titan or the Attack Titan is him, and sort of how this is like. It's sort of left ambiguous which one it is, of sort of, is the fact that Eren is the final Attack Titan sort of he is then gone back, because, again, you're thinking about time linearly when you talk about this, but sort of like, it's him influencing him, which is sort of contradictory, but it sort of makes sense of sort of, this is what, and it goes back into that thing about this Eren would have done this no matter what, of sort of like, he was always going to do this because somebody like Eren, who is born like this, would always do this. And like this, the freest person in the world thing, because I know Luffy's goal in One Piece is something similar to this, which I think it is more idealistic in One Piece, where Luffy thinks being king of the pirates is to be the freest person in the world because there's a big totalitarian government and everything in One Piece, and being a pirate is a rejection of that. And it goes into a bunch of interesting thematic things in One Piece. But I feel like there are other things that, they might be specifically like Japanese manga things, where it is talking about sort of being the freest person in the world. I wonder if it is a cultural thing that maybe we don't quite understand, or maybe the word for freedom in Japanese is a little different and implies some other things. Go ahead.
I was going to say there's a big thing in Japanese culture, so this kind of ties into what I believe is, I'm sure I saw again a video on this about discussing why so many seinen manga, specifically manga targeted at like, men 30 to 40, are set in like high schools and stuff. And you can make the whole, Japanese has like this, as a bit of a pervy, problematic element, and there definitely is some of that there. But a big part of that is Japanese sort of work-life culture is so toxic. Once you enter the workforce, that's basically you are dedicating your life and working under really horrendous conditions. in terms of the expectation and pressures built up there. And that's why so many of these manga are set in high school, because it's that escapism to a time when life was, when you were at your freest, basically, because you had the sort of conscious thought and ability to do stuff, but you weren't shackled to the sort of the to what is the sort of the workforce in Japan. That is just like a sort of minor side point, but again, that could very well be a sort of influencing factor, I guess.
Yeah, and so it definitely does. I mean, experiencing stories from different cultures, it's always going to be an interesting, like, one step away removal as like Westerners trying to get into this. It's always interesting. But freedom, I'm seeing this is something we're going to have to keep an eye on and revisit every time, because I think he gives this speech again at some point, or somebody else gives it. I can't remember the instance, though.
I mean, there's a bit where him and Mikasa are both saying it. Mikasa's at Sasha's grave, and Eren's staring into the mirror at the cum sink.
Yeah, and they both say fight. And if you can't fight, you can't win or whatever. I wonder if it all ties into one central theme or something, and we just can't put it together yet. Anyway, this is the point of the reread, to try and figure this stuff out, and it did, and it will be fun, and it will be interesting. Just another thing about freedom. Freedom, how the world works, fellas. Get ready for this one. Is kind of like freedom versus like harm reduction or impact on other people. So obviously, like, you're not free to burn things down, because fire will spread to things you don't intend and burn other people's shit down, and that's not cool. So we limit freedom in that way. You have to wear a seatbelt. We're limiting. Sometimes maybe you got to get a vaccine, and we're limiting freedom here. For a more contemporary example,
you have
hopefully
to wear
we
clothes
don't get the
in public.
Yes. Well, kinda.
Depends on the place.
Depending where you are. But
I mean,
yes,
but those are designated
freedom.
zones. It's not as a general rule. You have to wear clothes.
Yes, but yeah, and Attack on Titan mimics this obviously. In some, they do have to wear clothes. Never a naked person in Attack on Titan. How shameful!
Except for
not
the
even
Titans.
on a specialized beach. Well, yeah, but they don't have the things.
Yeah.
You know? Wait, where was I? Oh, I remember where I was going with this. And I've talked about this, and sort of the another big, like, dynamic or I guess subtextual battle in Attack on Titan is sort of this idea of, like, freedom to know sort of your history and things like that, or freedom to know what's actually going on versus, like, ignorant bliss. And I'm wondering if this ties into all of this somehow. We'll get into this. It's like the major theme of the Uprising arc of sort of like, should the people know everything, because then they can make bad decisions, like all becoming Jaegerists. If they didn't know about Marley and everything, and the scouts had left them all in the dark, it probably would have been easier to not have them all be Jaegers, which probably would have made Eren's plan easier, which maybe would have made, or not easier, and would have made the rumbling a little bit more difficult to pull off, and all these sorts of things. So it's sort of like this battle of whether or not being as transparent and freedom of information, I guess I'm getting at, versus controlling it, and sort of. But I guess it's another way you could think about freedom.
But then
I
that's
feel like
quite
there's
an
a better
interesting
word
thing,
than
though,
freedom
because
for that.
the royal government, the fake royal government, and the aristocracy in parody tried the control, and it nearly brought about their destruction from Marley. Now, whether it wasn't directly related, and then they went with absolute freedom, or they went with the freedom to reveal the information, which, by the way, I want to make it clear, I think was the correct choice, to reveal the information in Grisha's journals to the world. Because, that kind of stuff you shouldn't be keeping secret from your population. I don't think you should keep in a lot of stuff. I don't think really you should keep much secret at all. But anyway, what I mean is, like, Attack on Titan's always been really good at presenting effectively impossible scenarios. You know, when you look, no matter which way you look at it, it's going to end up being shit because the world is cruel. That seems to be that's one of my big sort of big common themes and motifs spoken throughout it, of this world being cruel. And it's like these characters are often placed in situations where there is no right answer.
Yeah, I feel like in every situation there's always a right answer or a less bad answer, which would be the right answer. But it definitely tests it in the most extreme circumstances of, like, yeah, obviously some things have to be kept secrets. You shouldn't have like troop movements known to everybody and ultimate transparency. But this kind of gets to the idea of principles, or whether or not freedom is a principle. Like ungoverned is good, and I'm pretty sure everybody would understand that obviously it's not. Again, you don't have the freedom to burn down somebody else's house and things like this. But yeah, I think we've gone a little off the rails here with our freedom talk. But this is something we should definitely keep an eye on.
Yep.
Moving forward to see if we get it. Being born into this world is another one where I'm still not certain I understand what that means. Like, he's born into this world, so he must realize his destiny, but I don't know.
I wonder,
it can sort of be a motivational thing.
Is that meant to be on
Go
a
ahead,
play?
Mr.
Is that meant to be a play on like the thing? Was it some are born great, some have greatness, some aspire to greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them? Is that like a sort of a thing that, like, they said he sort of is special because it was Carlo said he's special because he's born into this world, and
yeah, she does.
I don't think it's meant to be like the sort of the patronizing primary school everybody's special sort of thing. I think it's more. I think it was more just meant to be that anyone, almost that idealistic, anyone can. The fact that you're alive is important. It is something. It is still significant, and especially with our modern understanding of how the impossibility of life has developed as ours exists, just occurring in the first place, is fucking wild. So there is that sort of element where every person has value. There isn't like, especially during like the era Attack on Titan set in, both the Marley era and the parody era, which is technically, you can consider it 100 years earlier than Marley, even though it's the same time.
Yeah.
There is the concept of just some human lives just being worth less than others, or not being worth anything at all. And and that's kind of like a rejection of that idea, the idea that there is this inherent, that some human lives inherently have more value than others, which is just patently false. Every human life has the same value, at least especially when at least when born, and I'd argue even after you've been, throughout your life.
Yeah, because he says this in rejection. He says, because I was born into this world, as a rejection to the euthanasia plan, which sort of gets into what you're talking about there, of sort of like everybody deserves to be born, I guess, or like certain going to that. No, besides Carla, does any other character, do we recall, ever saying the "because I was born into this world" line?
Willie says
Can
it,
you
right?
think of an example?
Willie
Willie does say it.
Yes,
he does indeed.
Does Eren also say it just as he's about to plug up the wall in Shiganshina? I feel like he said it a couple of times.
He definitely said it a bunch of times. He says it. That was the first one. The first time was in this group of chapters when he decides, when Armin wakes him up and asks him why he wanted to journey outside the walls.
What chapter does Eren plug the wall?
But
again?
yeah, I'm not sure. Wait, don't spoil it. Don't look now. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't want to see it yet. You can look it up. Just don't tell us.
Okay, no, we'll leave it. That's fine. Like,
it'll be fun to see it in context, right?
Yeah. But I think that's a point where he says it. He gives some really cool speech. He goes like, "I can do this," and it's like, "No, we can do this." And then it's like, because we were born into this world.
Yeah. Because the world is obviously, it goes back to the world is cruel thing. Because we were born into this cruel world, I am like this.
And I think that's Shiganshina.
You have to filter everything through this context, and then and then he uses this to justify the rumbling, and it's like, it twists, it makes it much more interesting. You have to think about it a lot more, because it's sort of like taking these sort of, what you were saying, these sort of like, not primary school, because that's so like kind of demeaning, but like these elementary school, primary school type like positive motifs, and sort of turning them on their heads to the point where like, and this is how these can be dangerous if taken to like the extreme here with the rumbling. Or sort of like ultimate self-confidence can be really bad if you have some dumb fucking ideas, and you have ultimate self-confidence in sort of like your terrible, like harmful ideas.
USA January 6th riots.
Which is like something you taught in school, right? Be true to yourself, fight for what you believe in. It's like, not everybody should fight for what they believe in. People with good ideas should fight for what they believe in. But when you're a dumb kid, you don't know if they're going to have good or bad ideas, and you gotta it's a whole fucking can of worms, but yes, it's interesting to think about. So these are things we got to keep an eye out, because I think we'll move off these unless anybody has something striking to say. We got to keep an eye on Born into This World, Freedom as a Concept, and what was the other one? Just the Cruel World, the fight stuff,
There's
the special stuff.
I feel like there's a Cruel World line that's exclusive to the anime as well, but we'll find out when we get to the next arc. Funnily enough, because it's in the next arc where I think if it's going to happen, it'll happen.
Yes. Mr. RE, do you have anywhere you want to lead us next? We're kind of in the thematic section. Do you have any big thematic things you want to bring up from this?
I don't think. In our big notes here, I've got one thematic thing, which is about. I don't know if it's too relevant to this what we're talking about now, but it's about understanding.
Well, we're kind of swerving off, but yeah, we can go into understanding here.
Okay. Well, my little point about understanding is that it's related to Armin's 2 speeches that he does. So, like, he right now after Eren's first transformation. Yeah, we haven't yet, but so Eren transforms, and then people freak out, and they're like, "Oh, he's a Titan. What do we do?" And then Armin has to defend him, and it doesn't work until Pixis gets there. And then again in 139, the same thing happens where they've now come to Mueller, and Mueller's like, "Why should we trust you?" But the speech does work there, and I think just thematically, I would say that understanding is happening on both sides there. Like that both sides have learned the point of understanding. Like I don't think it would have worked in 139 if both the sides hadn't developed here. Like Armin becomes more convincing, I think, and he just is able to convince someone, but the person on the other side is actually open to being convinced. Whereas in what's happening in this chapter 10 or whatever, he's just not open to it at all.
Says that he's not going to hear, like he's not going to hear it, because I think we do get that bloke's internal monologue. This is true. That's a good point.
So that's
I think his name's Kits, by the way. I think it's like Kits Wildman or something.
He's voiced by Vegeta in the dub.
Yes, I remember that.
The main thing I remember, yeah. What's Vegeta's voice actor's name? I can't believe I've forgotten. Chris Sabat, yeah. But yeah, saying the speech doesn't work, I guess it doesn't work on him. I don't know if the speech necessarily works on Pixis, or Pixis just immediately understands everything immediately on their side and doesn't need convincing. So yeah, I think that works out. Understanding isn't too relevant, I don't think, to these early ones besides this point, which is connected to 139. Because the scouts aren't in it, and the scouts are about
understanding. It doesn't come into play until the twist that Marley exists.
The people show up,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as soon as we see shifters, and Armin has that conversation with Annie,
that
I
is
think
true.
Is where it starts. But yeah,
since we're on that scene, I don't want to jump too far away from themes, and like Pixis coming in and being convinced and just like establishing the Pixis character. What did you guys think of the anime edition of him like playing chess and? I
was thinking about that it wasn't there.
I thought we just hadn't seen it yet in the manga, but
no, I don't think it is in there. It's interesting because it is, I think, at the beginning of like episode 5 or 6. I think it's 5. No, it's 6 because they say no. It'll be 5 because the Colossal Titan shows up at the end of 4, or maybe it's 6. It doesn't matter. The idea behind that scene. I always thought it was kind of. I don't know how I feel about that scene. I thought it is a cute introduction for Pixis. It doesn't make too much sense, like this weird random aristocracy dude. The anime, I'm now thinking of another scene that happens in like episode 2 of the anime that's not in the manga at all, where we get like a random scene of like 4 random, assumingly aristocracy blokes talking around the table where they're like, oh no, this is before the Armored Titan breaks through Walmaria, and they just talk. They just say something. It's basically just a scene to have like a bloke run in and say they broken through the wall, Wall Maria too, and them all freak out and say this is bad or whatever. But that scene's not in the manga either, and I feel like the anime sort of leads you in the wrong direction of thinking that you're setting up some weird like aristocracy thing. This is actually a big difference I think is worthy of bringing up, and now I'm going with themes. But I guess no, it's not. In the manga, it feels like the military command is not as hopeless as in the anime. In the anime, it feels like they're like hopelessly corrupt because of those scenes.
Yeah,
we will learn that they are corrupt at the highest level in the Uprising arc. But like it feels like everything's like competently run. And even Vegeta's character here, Chris Sabat's character, Kits, Mr. Oz telling us his name is. Even he is not as crazy as he is in the anime, I don't think. Maybe
He's
it's just
scared.
Bart's like over the top. Yeah, he
Like,
is just scared, and he is kind of living up to his like what he should kind of do, because this is like an unprecedented development, and Pixis obviously has the foresight and the like intelligence or the wit to think on his feet and try and like take advantage of the situation, taking advantage of the cruel world and making something good out of it. That's a big theme. And yeah, I feel like that was another big difference that I noticed, was sort of like the lack of incompetence in the in sort of the military command and things like that in the manga. I don't know if anybody else noticed that too, but yes. We got onto this because we were talking about the Pixis soon, right? Yeah.
A vibe I get off Pixis as well. Kyle, you've played Horizon Zero Dawn, correct?
I have.
The vibe I get a similar vibe from
Don't count on me to
Pixis
recall.
as I got off of General Jerez, the guy who basically spread the false narrative, and he was like very accepting that he had to be the bad guy in order to achieve what humanity needed to endure. So, like, what is it? He gave that really good speech in Horizon Zero Dawn about how he had to formulate the lies designed to inspire millions of innocents to sacrifice himself in battle. And I see, like, Pixis, I get that's a very similar vibe. I know they did not influence each other at all, most likely, but it's just a really interesting sort of character dynamic. Pixis talks about the weight of humanity and how he has to send. I don't know if he talks about his. I have a feeling actually maybe that's not in the manga, because I feel like a lot of that dialogue comes when he's chatting to Eren.
He does talk about it a lot.
But yeah, like how
he does talk about it a lot in the manga. Even
he is almost haunted by the amount of the number of innocent men and women that he sent to their deaths, knowingly to their deaths, in the hope that it will save the wider humanity.
He always says that though, with like kind of it seems like he almost isn't emotionally affected by it. He's just saying he is. You know how I feel like this is like a sarcastic personality thing, and Pixis is a rather sarcastic bloke, I think. Where it's sort of like you just say like what's wrong, but you say it in sort of a funny, quirky manner, and maybe it affects you deep down, but you don't sort of give off that vibe. I will say I've completely forgotten. I looked up the bloke and I remember. Oh, so he's the dude in Horizon I'm talking about now. Mm-hmm. He's the dude that originally. I don't remember this speech at all, so my Horizon knowledge is lacking once again. Whenever you bring something up from the game, I always have forgotten.
I'll send you a link later to the actual cutscene I'm talking about.
Yeah. I remember the cutscenes with her and with him and Aloy's like body clone back person, a person from back in the time. If you don't know what a Horizon is, this is confusing as fuck because I'm saying I'm not explaining well. But yes, I remember the Horizon thing now. But the Pixis thing is really interesting, where he is sort of he is very. I guess this goes back to what the fuck am I trying to say here? Pixis, his dialogue regarding this of sort of like, I'm willing to sacrifice like all these lives for this moment, because if we lose in this moment, then it's just going to be us on the back foot forever and ever until we're all dead. And I think Pixis makes the right decision here, even if the Titans aren't the real threat, which he seems to understand. And the teasing of that this early is really interesting. Now, obviously in the immediate sense, they mean sort of like potentially the corruption in the government or the intelligent Titans just as an idea, not necessarily Marley or whatever. Who knows how much Isam had thought about that back here. But yeah, it is really cool. But yeah, I don't know if you had more to say about that or if I interrupted or something.
No, I don't really think. We kind of just sort of jumped into characterization of Pixis, which I think is good because he is an interesting character. Like, it's one of those weird ones where, despite all the corruption of the military high command, his one enduring trait throughout the entirety of the series is his dedication to, at first, humanity, and then I guess just parody, because the rest of the world hates parody at that point. But again, he doesn't want to genocide the world either. He wants to support, like, you know, there's an element about him where, like, when everyone else is
sort of personally involved, and he sort of keeps that completely out of it, huh?
Yeah. And, like, you know, again, even when, like, when Erwin was on trial, he said he would only help Erwin if he believed.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
That it would lead to victory.
To the least amount of bloodshed.
Yeah, lead to the overall least amount of bloodshed. And he's like, you know, he's willing to forgive or to put aside, ignore Zackley's assassination if it means potentially a truce with the Jaegerists as well. Like, he is 100% committed to
He's
mankind.
willing to compromise.
He's unquestionably committed to to the survival of the most people in the least violent, in the least sort of, just ensuring the survival of the most people with the least cost. That's his.
I think it goes into sort of the idea of duty and him taking that very seriously as sort of like an old high-level commander.
But it's not what you'd expect. It's almost like this dichotomy, because he's introduced as like this sort of this drunk senior.
Jovial.
Jovial,
Where's my
sarcastic,
sexy lady titan?
Yeah, jovial, sarcastic, alcoholic, commander who's in such a position of power he could never have to do any actual work again if he wanted to.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that idea of duty and responsibility, where he sort of can't get away from that. It is reiterated upon like every arc that he does this, and it's interesting because in this arc he sort of comes in and says like everything you're sort of thinking as a viewer and everything sort of Armin, Eren, and Mikasa are feeling. So he sort of just comes in and hits it all on the head and does exactly what needs to be done. Like when Rico sends up the failure signal and he doesn't call the retreat because he like knows that he basically can predict what's going to happen, and that this is it. Like, there's no point in recalling, because then it's just admitting defeat. So this is our only chance. Don't recall them. It's just like every moment where, there could be like a false moment of drama, I guess, and maybe a lesser series of like, he has this moment where he thinks about it, but his iron like commitment of never wavering and just like doing the right thing to get to the good outcome here. It's something really satisfying as a reader, and also thematically what that says about Pixis.
I was going to say, and in the end, it's just a big tragedy, because despite his main virtue, I mean, there's definitely discussion to be had about the fact that he helped stage a military coup to overthrow the government. That's maybe a discussion for the actual uprising arc, because there's a lot of political stuff to get involved there. But in the end, despite what I would say is his personal virtuousness and his dedication to what is the ultimate good cause of ensuring everyone survives with the least blood spilled to accomplish that, he dies effectively. He dies an unceremonious, sad death as a mindless titan, not even really aware of himself at that point.
He does die drinking like he wanted, though. But yeah. It's interesting because he's never really posed the question of sort of like what he would do in regards to the rumbling, because it seems like his commitment is just to the people of Paradis. But whenever he's alive or has any decision-making power, it is them on the back foot, and presumably Marley coming to invade them with the rest of the world. He's never given like what would he have done if he had survived, and
I mean, I guess
would
the thing
he have
is,
joined the alliance?
the thing is, he never said Paradis though. He always said humanity. So I think he's the kind of guy who would still view the outside world as humanity, even if like the nations of the world hate Paradis and want to destroy it.
Yeah,
he has still always been very for humanity. And for some people, when they discovered the outside world, their definition of humanity changed and they started only caring about Paradis. But I get the feeling, I don't know if, because again, I don't think it was ever confirmed, but I feel like he was always for humanity as a concept. Yeah. That's everything he'd fought for in his entire life. That's everything he'd fought for in his life, to try and keep humanity alive.
It really does all depend on sort of the change from humanity to sort of this nation state of sort of like, where is the loyalty to these people or to humanity in general? Because obviously at this point they think they are all that's left of humanity, and I guess that's what a lot of the Paradisian Jaegers think at the end. But yeah, Ari, you got anything to say about any of this?
On Pixis, I think he is just a good person, so I think he would not support the rumbling. That's my conclusion. I haven't really thought about it that much, honestly. I'm interested to see how he goes from here.
The rumbling is the more extreme example. Like, I feel like he would have defended and killed as many enemy soldiers that tried to show up and invade Paradis as possible, which I think would be the right decision. If they're going to try and invade you, well then, that's a sacrifice of your life, good friend.
Well, I don't know if it's justified, like, in my belief, but I see him as like a morally upstanding person. So like, I feel like he's like a more, I don't know if this is true. This is just how I feel about Pixis, but I feel like he would act like how we would act, like real people. Like, if someone comes to invade, then you'll probably defend. But if they send like a lot of people, you probably don't defend, because you're like, I don't want to have everyone dying, and like, I don't know. That's how I see him.
It depends, because I guess my idea of Pixis is more the Judy type than the good person type. I guess
I don't know.
I guess it depends. It goes like one and the same. It depends what you think. Does following your duty make you a good person or not? I feel like if I was in the Paradisian position, even if they sent a lot of people, I would still I guess defend it to the death.
Well, I more mean like overwhelming like odds of like everyone's gonna die if we do something. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It all stems. I think what it's stemming from is the fact that he like resigned to the Jaegerists, which is like a big character thing for him. Which I wouldn't have expected him to do that, but he did, and it's just I don't know. But then I guess he did plan in the background though. So I don't know. I think I need.
The thing is, his resignation to the Jaegerists was preventative. Once war arrived, at that point, it's like, how do you even broker a peace deal like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was basically like, well, they're going to invade us. We may as well all be together.
And the thing is, and at that point, Eren was brawling in the streets, and the Jaegerists were fighting. You know, the fighting had started.
That is true.
And the thing is, he did know as well that that I guess Marley would take everything from them. They would take control of. They would take Historia. They would probably murder Historia. They would take back Zeke.
Yeah.
They would retreat. They would take back Eren, and then Marley, the current global empire, would have power over everything, and then everyone on Paradis would be confined to the fate that the Marleyan the Eldians in Marley were confined to.
I guess this gets back to our impossible decisions thing at the beginning.
Yeah. Like, I don't think there was an option but to fight. With the Jaegerists, it was different because at that point anyway, the Jaegerists and the Paradisian military were, at least in theory, fighting for the same thing. Obviously, that turned out to be false later on. So they could negotiate on those terms, but what negotiation would happen for Marley? They would become, in turn, second-class citizens. That's the only way. There'd be no scenario against Marley where that wouldn't happen to the people of Paradis.
Just Pixis. What an interesting fellow. We'll keep an eye on. This is another thing. Everything we got to keep an eye on because we're only through the introductory arcs. But Pixis won't be in the next arc, I don't think. Oh well, I guess he'll be in the beginning chapters of
the
where
trial.
we pick up because he'll be at the trial. Yeah. Well, is he at? Yeah, I think he is at the trial, but he has the talk with Erwin, or maybe that's anime only. I don't remember. I think he at least has one talk with Erwin. Yeah. But yes. In terms of the actual female Titan part, he's not in it too much, but he'll be back with the uprising. And he's in a little bit of the Clash. Doesn't matter. We'll keep an eye on Pixis. Do we have anything else to say about Pixis before that? Maybe, I feel like we went over him thematically and his characterization. He's a good fellow and I like him.
How old is Pixis?
60s, I think.
60. Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, if it's 100 years, like, I wonder how far into the history he was born. Yeah. Completely unrelated.
That is always interesting to think about. Yeah. The I guess if we continue on the themes thing, should we go through this or should we go through something else? Does anybody have anything they want to dive into immediately? Got anything boiling on the top of their brain?
From themes,
Or it doesn't have to be from themes, I guess. We can go anywhere.
No, I don't think I have anything in particular. I'm just happy to move on to whatever. If you guys have anything.
Okay, I'll just try and go through mine, I guess, quickly then.
There's that sunk cost fallacy. Because
that's what I was about to talk about,
okay, yeah.
So the sunk cost fallacy is an interesting thing, because I don't know if Attack on Titan understands this. I don't know if I even understand the sunk cost fallacy entirely, but they keep saying, and this is a big thing Eren even says in Chapter 1, that, like, we have to continue the fight, otherwise the people before us will have died for nothing, or... I guess there is sort of this concept in Attack on Titan, I think I might have brought this up already, of like stacking progression. Like I think they say later on that like the Ackerman power gets stronger every time because like you get all the power of the people that came before you or something. And the Titans, obviously you stack memories, and it's sort of like this similar idea, the Owen standing on the stacks of bodies, sort of you stand on the backs of the people that came before you. And this is sort of true in like reality. Obviously, we stand on the technological achievements of the people that come before us, and we will lay the technological foundations of the people that come after us, and sort of the linearness. I guess, in contradictory to all the non-linear stuff we've talked about with the time stuff. This is sort of reflected in reality. But specifically with the deaths thing, obviously, my understanding of the sunk cost fallacy is sort of like, if you've got like a money-losing venture or something in business, is sort of, I think, where this idea comes from. And sort of like, well, I'm in this far, or even in like gambling, I think this can be applied, where you're in this far, so you may as well keep going. Whereas like the appropriate thing would probably is to like pull out of it and save the money you have remaining instead of sinking more in. I guess I don't think this applies because we still got to fight forward.
Is it the sunk cost fallacy though? Because in the end, continuing with it does achieve victory. It achieves it at a cost.
I guess it in this context it does, but the general idea of just like we have to die because we have to commit ourselves to it because people have died for it is the sunken cost fallacy. But in this case, it is like, we are moving towards a goal here. The goal ends up being kind of the rumbling and then stopping the rumbling in 80% of the people. So we can sort of talk about that in that zoomed out of a way, but in this very narrow, not narrow, but in this way of like fighting against the Titans. And if you're in this scenario, you probably should fight the Titans here and dedicate your life to it. Dedicate your hearts, if you will. But were you going to say something else, Mr. R?
No, not particularly, I don't think. Just saying that. Sorry?
No, I was just going to say, I was just reading through this. Hold on, if you have something, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm. No, I don't think I have any. I don't think it. I don't know if it's the same as sunk cost fallacy. It's a bit of a.
I think my point is it could be. I didn't think it was.
I guess potentially could be. Yeah, could be as maybe
I
the
feel
better
like.
way of.
Yeah, I feel like the sunk cost fallacy would be you try. I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but you trying to criticize the theme or like the way it's implemented in the story, right? Because it's not portrayed as a bad thing, as far as I can tell. Like at the end, in
it is not.
They like see all the scouts that have passed, and they're like, "Oh, well done," and Levi salutes them or whatever. So then, if it was like a fallacy, then surely they'd have a scene somewhere like critiquing.
Yeah,
it.
that was the critique of the theme potentially. Yeah. I don't know if I wasn't like committing myself to this critique. I was just it was something I was thinking about while watching it. The Pixis quote I have in the notes here is because he basically reiterates on it as well. And obviously Pixis and Eren are sort of definitely colored good in these beginning arcs, though we recontextualize that as we move on. What we can do to ensure that the slain soldiers didn't die in vain is keep up the struggle for as long as we're alive, which is Pixis's quote there in chapter 13.
Erwin echoes something very similar many chapters later.
He definitely does.
I do. Now that I think about it, I wonder if this is inverted. Like, do the Jaegerists ever like invoke this ideology? Because I wonder if it's inverted in that way. Because I don't remember.
Feel like they must.
Because if they do, then like we're against the Jaegerists. So I wonder if it's like, I don't know.
I think that the in my core themes video, which sort of talks about the recontextualized aspect, I feel like I color all of those examples as bad examples. But I feel like that's not the point in Attack on Titan. To amend that video, I feel like it's the point might be sort of the duality of this, of sort of like it can be implemented in a wrong way or a right way if you take sort of like the principle as being good in and of itself without like assessing it, of sort of like freedom. Like obviously you can use freedom as a rallying cry for something good, but obviously you could do that for something bad as well. As Mr. R said at the beginning, America seems to do this all the time in both regards, I guess. But yeah, I think the passing on to the next person, passing the baton on is something else I've written down the notes here. But yeah, I
mean that's always been a big thing. If you look at any kind of struggle for any kind of progressive like movement in any kind of civil sort of rights movements as well, like there's always like a debt owed to the people who came before, who had to fight under even worse circumstances to push society in that direction. Like the sort of like the martyrs of the past who sort of had to endure something even worse. And that's like what you always sort of be aware of, like whenever you're engaging in any kind of social justice causes now, is that you're aware that, like, you know, especially like folks like us stand in a position of extreme privilege, and a big debt is owed to the people who did not have those privileges when they were fighting for this, and a big awareness of that is.
Yeah, the point you're going on now reminds me of an interesting point in one of the ContraPoints videos where she talks about how, I think it is in Envy, where it's sort of about how, like, the other side of that also is sort of like those, I guess, like, I think the example she gives in that video is sort of like older trans people and how they sort of resent younger trans people, or sort of, what's the term in the trans community when you like, where you basically say other people aren't trans, but is it truth scum? Is that the term?
Yeah.
Yes, where sort of like older trans people will do that to younger trans people because, like, there's sort of this idea of you didn't suffer as much as us to get, like, where you're at, or sort of like them resenting the idea that you can
that's a bit different from true
go
scummery.
into a doctor's...
I think true scummery is basically that you're not trans unless you suffer gender dysphoria. That's kind of like what true scum is applied to.
Yeah. That might be
that which is bullshit. It's basically like an excuse for for people in general to dislike on non-binary folks.
Yeah,
it's not always non-binary folks, but it's generally more directed at non-binary folks. From what I've seen. But.
Yeah. But the thing about, like, sort of resenting the younger generation for not suffering as much is sort of the thing I was trying to get into, not necessarily a true scum thing, though.
Yeah, no, I get exactly what you mean on that.
Yeah, it's just sort of interesting. My point there was that it was going back into the duality thing of, like, oh, this mindset can be used in good or bad ways. The next one I have, I'll try to power through.
We see a big pile of that as well with when fucking boomers say that, whenever we get a big thing in the UK of boomers who weren't even around at the time anyway, bringing up imagery of the Blitz to talk about how they're the stronger generation and how the young generation wants everything spoon-fed to them. And it's like, you idiots weren't around during the Blitz anyway, but whatever.
I don't know what the Blitz is.
Oh, the Blitz was the strategic bombing of various UK cities by the Nazis in World War II.
Okay, yes, okay.
And, like, it was like it was kind of like some of the worst damage the UK received during the war was the Blitz, specifically the bombings on, like, London.
Yeah,
it was pretty fucking brutal.
Like the
there's a lot of suffering and sacrifice that went on in London. Like, all the lights were just switched off all the time at night, so the planes couldn't see the city. You'd get thrown in jail for lighting a cigarette, sort of thing.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures of the people hiding in the subways and sleeping on the train tracks and things like that.
And it's the idea of we can all come together. Spirit of the Blitz was evoked a lot during COVID era as well, and it's often used as like by boomer generations to diss on millennials and Gen Zers for complaining about the conditions of the world when it was so much worse in our day. And it's like, but that wasn't your day either. You were born to the people who were in the Blitz.
Yeah. Fuck. Well, I was going somewhere with something. But just to, I guess,
standing on the shoulders of those who came before.
Yes. I guess we should try and move through, because I got like 3 of these fucking things, and I'm trying to talk less. I had the idea of struggling. I made the berserk joke in the notes here. Fighting for something, even if it's hopeless, because the integrity to fight back is important. Bonus pages, humanity is not saved in the end. I think the point here is, I think Attack on Titan at certain points makes this point about, even if it is like hopeless and you will lose, if it is something worth fighting for, you should like throw your life away in the hope or in sort of the principle of fighting for this issue. I'm trying to think of what example I would have had for this. I think this is probably the trust thing of sort of like, even if this plan, because they hadn't tested out Eren's abilities or anything, and it was kind of on a sort of, and not a false hope because it pulls off in the end, but a gleam of hope or whatever. And sort of like the idea is like, even like this is the place to die. This is made explicit with like the Ian stuff and stuff like that, which I guess we already went over. The next one was Eren doesn't regenerate until he wants to. Oh, this one is a cool point. I remember this is just a sort of personal development in me. I remember like edgy 16 or I was probably 16 at the time. Edgy 16-year-old me thinking the moment at the beginning of the Marley arc where Reiner doesn't transform or he doesn't heal immediately after saving Falco, and Falco has that monologue about how, well, Reiner can only like heal himself if he wants to. And I remember thinking that was like a plot convenience. This was when I was one of those people. And I was like, haha, how stupid, how convenient that Reiner just doesn't want to whatever or something. I thought it was stupid because everything has to be technical and shit like that. And for that to be established so far, like back here, and I was so stupid because the spoon thing happens in the female Titan arc, and that's like the chief example of that. It was just me being dumb. The Eren doesn't regenerate here because he doesn't want to when he's like laid out and he punches himself in the face and things like that because he's in his like blissful, comfortable, which I guess gets into the another one I've got here about contentiveness and being comfortably numb. I quoted the song here because I was
then again, when
funny or
Eren punched
something.
himself, he could very well have just been out of power because that was his third transformation. Remember. And we see later on
it
that
was in a quick succession.
That he struck.
But I feel like the Flash, the vision.
Yeah, it was a bit less. So it was his second full
that.
transformation, which was clearly a lot. Like they were saying, that each transformation he would get smaller and weaker when they were doing training back. Skip forward in the Uprising arc. So I think I'm not dismissing the thematic stuff. I'm just saying that is that is like also a more, I guess, logical reason why
There's
he
a
didn't
technical
heal.
part of it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Technical.
Is that all I have here?
Logical.
It's established back here. Yes, okay. So that's that point. Comfortably
also, fucking plot hole. Why wasn't Eren steaming after he hit his head in the training arc?
True.
In the anime he does steam.
Oh
from
yes,
the
true. Yes, he does.
We're meant to think that it's some kind of like emotional thing. Like him,
maybe. He does heal without steaming though. Remember when he gets his teeth kicked out and Hanji's like, your teeth came back.
Maybe that's because it's inside, you can't see it.
Yeah, maybe you swallowed the steam.
Or I feel like you would. I guess you don't taste steam, huh?
I mean, I guess because like the steam would have been presumably the steam comes from the actual regeneration of the cells. So would the tooth have been regenerating? Would the tooth have been regenerating within the gum and then been pushed through, or would it have regenerated post push through? How would a tooth regenerate? Would it regenerate inside the gum and then push through? Or would it regenerate as a push through tooth? Because if it's the former, then all the steam would be trapped inside his... Sorry? It would be what?
Or he has heightened growth ability to grow the tooth out? I don't know. Do you grow teeth? I don't know how teeth work.
But that's the thing, because in that case, the steam would all be contained within his gum. This is really getting off topic. This is getting like ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is getting
It doesn't make it... Like, how does he age at all? I don't know, the logic of it just doesn't make sense.
Regeneration happens, all right? It's a
but like, does that mean he can never lose a tooth?
Fighting things. I assume he had lost all his baby teeth by the time he was 15?
No, like, I mean, after he's transformed and he's like a shifter, like when he gets... I guess he can only live 13 years, that undermines it. But like...
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't matter.
Because I don't know. Regeneration... what
magic.
a thing. What a meme. So that's that point. That's the I guess the contentedness. I don't even know if that's a word. Being content, sort of this is the Garrus and this is Hannes in the first chapter. Very content. They don't think. This is the sort of Eren's critique of everybody else is that they're content being in the walls and they sort of don't see the point at all in going outside the walls. This is definitely a theme in Attack on Titan. Sort of being, I guess it sort of gets into the ignorant bliss thing as well, versus like the freedom of information thing. That's another theme. Eren's dual motivations, the positive and the negatives, is another point I got here. Let's run through these. The positive being the lust to explore the explore, the right to explore the outside world. God, these are well written. Because he was born into this world. The negative is wanting to kill every. Oh, okay, I know what this point is. So Eren has two motivations, obviously, to explore the world and kill every last Titan. And there's sort of examples. I get into this, I think, in my Scout video too, about how Eren's positive actions are motivated by him wanting to explore the outside world, whereas his negative actions are motivated by wanting to kill every last Titan. Now, I'm interested to see if this actually tracks under the series, because I'm not sure if it will, because at the end of all of these chapters that we read, at the end of chapter 18, I'll just say brings up wanting to kill every last one of the Titans, and that's what ingratiates him to the Scouts and Erwin and Levi, and that's why they're like, all right, you can join the Scouts early, and that's why they start to believe in him and the basement thing and everything. And I don't know if that's a positive or negative action being colored by his negative motivation here. When Armin wakes him up, obviously, to put the boulder in the hole, which is something I do bring up in that scout video, it is not motivated to kill all the Titans, though he does bring that up initially when he fails to motivate Eren. He has to bring up the why go out and explore thing. It's interesting that, like, it goes back to his core motivation of before everything went wrong, is sort of this lust to explore the world rather than the Titans, because I think he even says in his haze, in his vision, that like, why would I want to go and kill all the Titans when, like, Mum's right here, she's not dead or whatever. So that sort of leaned into me being right in the scout video, and then potentially the scout thing at the end of chapter 18 contradicted it a little bit. It depends how it plays out, I guess. Another thing we got to keep our eye on. I think that's all I had for this point. Yes. I have Armin awakens Eren by telling him the outside world. Before that, he was just a boy crying at the clouds. Staring at the clouds, rather. What's Armin's culpability in Eren's later, more drastic actions? Does Armin feel guilty about this? Chapter 14 is also called Primitive Desire, perhaps in reference to this lust to explore. This is the one where I think... Yes, 14 is also the one where they plug up the hole. It's also I don't know what Primitive Desire means in relation to chapter 14. It was an interesting title because it's also when Levi and the scouts show up. So I don't know if the Primitive Desire is the desire to explore the outside world, if it is the desire to, like, fight and plug up the hole, or if it is, like, freedom through the wings of freedom because it's the first time they meet Levi. I'm not sure. That is something I was thinking about, though, because that is an interesting title, Primitive Desire. It's not as direct or as literal as a lot of the other ones are. And that's all my thematic shit. Did anybody have anything to say about any of that, or should we move on to a different section?
I'm cool with that. Different section sounds good. We've still got a fair bit
one
to
of
get
you
through.
Choose, because I was talking a lot there.
I mean, I kind of like the idea of maybe going into foreshadowing, because it may not take that long, and I don't know how much time we have on the current session.
Well, I ain't got a single battery thing yet, so we got at least like 20 to 25 minutes. So go ahead, lead us around. I'll try to take a back seat for this part.
So, something that I noticed in particular was how specific of how intently and how often Reiner is jumping to the questions about the Titan. Like when they talk about the Titan, he's the one who's immediately in there going, "What do you know about this Titan? How much do you know?" And then as soon as
Annie interrupts him, right, and tells him to, like, chill.
I don't know if it's at that bit. I think that might have been a different one. But then when they're outside and they see the Titan, Reiner is again like, "We need to rescue it," and then Annie, who's usually been like completely uninterested in basically everything, even steps in to go, "Yeah, I agree. It could be an ally to us."
Yeah,
I just think it's like, even that early on, we were getting like the little things. It's Reiner who's genuinely fascinated by it, and again, when everyone's staring at it, they all look in disbelief. But I think Reiner, it's just like Reiner knowing what it, again, Reiner knows what it means. It's so good, that whole.
Did you guys figure out they were like other, I guess, Titan shifters before it was revealed?
I don't think I did, because
the Annie one was obvious to me, but the other two I didn't get.
You know what? I didn't even notice the Annie one. I'd kind of forgotten, I think, because I was buying the books every few months, I think.
Yeah.
Or every month or so. I'd kind of spaced out. The Reiner and Bertolt one I didn't get, but upon reading back, I think I realized why. It's because in the anime, Bertolt knocking down the gate, which is a phenomenal scene in the anime, gets this huge focus, whilst in the manga, it's like a single panel of him crashing through from a front angle.
Yeah.
Like, we don't get as much focus on the appearance of the armored Titan in the manga. So I think by that point I wasn't expecting it. Like, it happened and I was like, oh, I can see how they kind of look like the Titans, but yeah, it wasn't something. So yeah, no, I even the Annie one, I don't think I remember thinking about Annie as an option.
The Annie one was
just. I think it's because at that point she'd obviously disappeared off to the military police, and I thought we were largely almost done with her, I guess.
Annie was obvious to me because she was the one blonde girl that didn't go on the mission, so I was like, oh, it's definitely it. A friend actually spoiled, because I watched, I think, episode 17 for the first time, then I went to school the next day, because I was watching it on my laptop the night before when I was supposed to be in bed for school, because I was fucking 12. And I went to school the next day, and I was like, don't tell me, because he was in front of me. I had gotten him into it, but he had already passed it, because I think he'd read the manga, because he just got the things from... Oh, Jack, what the fuck? Got me into Game of Thrones too. But then we were in line. I remember we were in line for care class. I'll never forget the moment. And I was like, don't tell me, but I'm pretty sure this fucking blonde girl that stayed behind is definitely the fucking blonde Titan that just showed up. And he was like, yeah, it's Annie. I was like, did you not just hear me say... And he was an oblivious fellow, all right? He didn't even realize he was fucking me over. He just probably didn't even... He probably heard me, but didn't register what the fuck I said about not telling me.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. When the chapter started with Annie, I was like, oh, okay, it's Annie. I was like, that was the point where, that was the point, it wasn't the reveal. It was like, oh, okay, it's 100% Annie then, because I was kind of reminded, oh, yeah, it looks just like her. And also, we wouldn't suddenly be having a chapter just on her out of nowhere.
The thing about the Armored and Colossal Titan is, I think this is stupid in retrospect, but I never thought it could be Bertolt because I thought the Colossal Titan had to be bald because he didn't have any hair. That was like my big thing at the time. I was like, obviously it's like Shardis or whatever.
Yeah. I think for me it's because Bertolt was just a non-character at that point still. Yeah. I mean, not a non-character, but he still wasn't that significant.
He gets the I assume we'll get into this at some point, but he does get the monologue in the training thing that happens afterwards, which I think does give him some more characterization. But it is interesting because he is always the one, and I think this might be in your foreshadowing things here, is he is always the one sort of like nervously looking in, like Jean is talking about, the one Jean moment that I remember somebody writing this down in our notes, where he's like, Jean is like, oh, I was supposed to go to the military police the next day, and this is the beginning of the Tross thing. It's probably in chapter 4, and it's just sort of like Bertolt awkwardly standing next to him, looking sweat, like with the anime sweat mark coming down his face, and he's sort of like...
I mean, the thing is, you get the anime sweat mark quite a lot. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I like that Bertolt characterization. Again, I think this was I don't think this was in our recording session, but there is a hardcore Bertolt sort of like analysis fan base. I still have that Imager link of like the 50-page fucking this is what all these little symbols mean in regard to Bertolt thing that I would like to read after probably we get to the part where Bertolt dies to see what these Bertolt and analysts are all on about. Because it does seem like there is more there than meets the eye.
I mean, Bertolt has some great moments. Don't get me wrong. Clash of the Titans arc and Return to Shiganshina, he's great. It's just I just don't think there's a lot of him in these early sections. I feel like the anime maybe fleshed him out a little bit more, but I can't remember.
I think it's all in that one scene that happens again afterwards in the manga with the where him and Reiner start. They question Armin and Eren and give their fake backstories and things like that. But I'm supposed to be shutting up for this part. More foreshadowing. You guys go ahead.
What were we talking about in foreshadowing?
Well, I was talking about Annie apologizing is an obvious one as well, I guess.
Yeah.
What is the foreshadowing there? I like that moment, and I think it's very interesting. But what's the foreshadowing? I guess.
I guess
that she's a Titan. Never mind, I'm stupid.
I guess that she's a Titan, and also like that maybe and also when knowing that she's a Titan as well, and going back, how she feels about it, because she didn't want to kill Marco. She didn't really want to do any of this. Like even though she claims to have shut off, like she clearly does feel something for some of the people that she's trained with. Like she likes Eren. We get that because like in the last chapter she's like crying at Eren. Eren didn't have to do that for me and so on. Like she clearly cares more than she lets on. She's better at hiding it than like the others are.
That's sort of Annie's whole character. The pretending not to care but actually caring deep down. The secret heart of gold. The stoic sort of shell that hides like sort of her true feelings. But yes, the apologizing here is definitely a breaking of that, of sort of like when she claims to not care about anybody else. And Mikasa even does that too in a little parallel to them, like the Ymir scene where Mikasa says she's only got so much room in her heart or whatever, but then she doesn't kill Ymir and she cares about Sasha and everything else. Stoic girls, they actually do care deep down.
Yeah. I don't really actually have much.
Yeah.
It's Ari who's got the big chunk of stuff.
Ari,
I
get
got
in
all the
here.
foreshadowing stuff. All right. First off, we got the hand biting and the past memories. So Grisha, well, I guess Eren remembers a memory of Grisha telling him that he will know how to use his power through his past memories.
I got a big thing in bold here. Their memories will teach you how to use it. What a lie!
Well, okay, so I don't remember what your note was exactly, but like the thing I was going to get
right
to,
under that one.
Yeah, I have read it though, but the hand, like the theory that or subtle hint there to me is that I wonder if, because everyone uses the hand biting thing, and I always wonder where did that come from, but I wonder if it's like from some common ancestor, like you know how the Titans back in the day used to be like one Titan and then they split or whatever. Like I wonder if there was like one ancestor back in the day who used to bite their hand, and now everyone is like subtly picking up on that, and that's how they learn to do that. But that was my little point about that. What have you got about the hand biting?
Well, I just shouted, their memories will show you how to use it. I don't remember if that's in the anime. I feel like there's no way that's in the anime.
I don't remember it in there.
I think that's a manga thing, and it's such a fucking incredible... Oh, it's so cool. And the thing is here was another time of me shitting on my previous self. Because I say here, I much prefer how the manga does the Grisha teases. This is true. Eren passes out in chapter 3, which isn't in the anime at all, and that's how he first remembers the Grisha, I'm going to give you the needle scene. And then it happens again in the when he has to protect them from the cannonball and transforms into a Titan for the second time. First time he's cognizantly doing it. Well, I guess he was doing it cognizantly the first time. Shut up. The headache pass out in chapter 3. These memories coming back at the side of the key is interesting in chapter 10. I always remembered memory stuff coming out of nowhere in the Uprising arc and in 2014 thinking it was a little weird, but it's definitely teased here that the memories have some relevance and will be explored in the future. I remember my dumb old self in 2014, I would have been 13 years old, so don't shit on me too bad. But I remember thinking, again, like memories was a goofy, silly thing to bring up, and this is weird to like... I remember feeling a little betrayed that like the idea, like, because obviously the mystery stuff was big for me, so I was like, I felt a little betrayed that like the explanation for why people didn't remember the outside world, even though it probably existed, was that their memories were taken from them. But in retrospect, and obviously memories is a massive thing in Attack on Titan, and I like it a lot, I was stupid. It being teased here, and their memories will show you how to use it, was sort of the representation of that being teased here, and I was proud of Attack on Titan. I was saluting. It's just really cool. All the Grisha stuff is really cool. That sort of mystery stuff. I'll give you this needle to fucking help you forget. Oh, some cool shit. But yeah, it was foreshadowing that memories would become a plot point in the future, and I liked that. That was my foreshadowing thing.
I just want to say, I just quickly flicked through to those pages, and I came across as well something that I feel like would have fallen in. The Eren panel of him going, "I'll kill you all" in like that sort of half days.
Yes.
It's a good panel. It's a good panel, and it's like, oh boy. There's so many sort of fucking.
Sure did.
The first few volumes have so many sort of payoffs in the worst possible sense.
Yeah, like
literally
now
like
think of the rumbling.
100 chapters later.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's so good. It's so good. What a cool theme that changes with context. It's so goofy when he says it there. You ain't gonna be laughing in 100 chapters, bucko.
Yeah, well, because we're all in the audience, like, we're all in a stupor, thinking, he's just in a delirious haze because he's come out of the Titan and he was just in like Titan brain.
He would never. ... But yeah, it's so cute.
And it's such a fucking weird looking, creepy face he's got. His expression as well.
Yeah, which makes it even better because it's like, it's so good. I have another short one here. Armin thinks Mikasa saves him and Eren after they successfully complete the Bold mission, but it's actually Levi teasing that they're similar in some way. Teasing that Levi is an Ackerman, where he's like really cool and he chops down 2 Titans right as they plug up the hole, and it is a really cute moment. I do like when Armin turns around and goes, "Mikasa," and then turns around the other way and Mikasa's right there and it wasn't him.
I hadn't even clocked that until I read your note on that, and I was like, wait, what? Went back to it and it's like, oh fuck.
Yeah, it's cute. And I guess I have one more at the very bottom that's just, this time you be the bad guy. This is a big meme where Eren and Reiner are playing the knife game, and obviously they will take turns being the bad guy positionally in the narrative. And what a cute little tease that is at the beginning. But Ari, you got a bunch of other ones, so you should.
I got a bunch. One of my bigger ones is about You guys are gonna have to see. I have to see if you guys agree with this or not. But 20% sacrifice, or 20% of people dying, is a very common thing. Like
and 20% survive at the end.
That's exactly
20.
what I'm. Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to see if there's like something related there. So like 20% of humanity dies in that like recovery mission where like Armin's.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's parents or grandparent. That's like a point of contention. But someone dies in his family, like in that recovery mission. 20% of people, and then again 20% of the people involved in the trust operation die. And then obviously in 139, it's revealed that 20% of people survive. Now I don't know what the connection is, but I mean it seems pretty. I feel like it's
just a bunch of. I feel like it's just a bunch of like, again, you know, Isayama does enjoy his number play. Like 13s and 9s are obviously a big deal. I mean, there's a reason why he ended on chapter 139.
Yeah,
I think there could have been more chapters worth of content, but I think he deliberately wanted to end on 139 because it's 13 years of the Nine Titans.
I've forgotten the 139 thing, because I think we might have talked about this in one of the abandoned recording sessions where I was like, I was talking about the nines and because we talked about the tree scene and the 9 branches on the tree and my dumb 9 tangent in that one video. But yes, I remember now. 139 is 13 and 9, because I think I was struggling to figure out like what the last. Yes, I've just remembered.
Yep. What a perfect
chapter. Cleared that up for me, Mr. R. I'll never forget it again. Thank you very much.
There's always more to discover about the final chapter, isn't there? What a great thing.
Yes.
Anyway.
Because we're trying to track the motifs, the numbers are definitely motifs we should also keep an eye on. 20%, 80% potentially, 9, 13. We'll be keeping our eyes peeled. But you got more, Ari.
What's the lucky number in Japan? I mean, that may end up being in there as well. I'm sure there are other mangaka who include that.
I think it's 7.
I know 7's in Harry Potter.
Okay, it's 7 in Japan as well. Oh, wait, no. 7 is an important number in Buddhism and is also considered lucky. 8 is considered a lucky number due to its shape.
I feel like every number is lucky, depending on the time. Like 13 is the lucky, but also the unlucky number. But then sometimes, like, the trope will be like, oh, they 13, but this time they succeed because those sort of superstitions are dumb. But in that case, 13 becomes the lucky number. But I'm
on the Wikipedia page on unlucky numbers in Japan. So 4 is an unlucky number because its pronunciation which is the word for death. So there's like lots of things. So 4 is an interesting one. Number 9 is sometimes pronounced ku, which with the same pronunciation as agony or torture.
The Titans give agony and torture. We figured it all out. Folks.
Number 9.
That's
Due to these unlucky connotations, the numbers 4 and 9 are often pronounced yon and q instead. The number 13 is occasionally thought of as unlucky, although this is imported from Western culture. So 7 and 8 are lucky. 9 and 13 are unlucky.
Well, there we go.
1, 3, 9, 13 and 9.
Yes.
And 4 is a bit could be unlucky as well, but
Well, Eren dies in chapter 4.
True.
Well, not really. I remember the 13 being when I first learned that 13 was an unlucky number was in my grade 5 English class because our English teacher had to explain to us that in The Hobbit they wanted Bilbo to come along because there were 13 dwarves and they didn't want because Gandalf wasn't going to stick with them the whole way. They didn't want 13 people to be in their traveling party because that was an unlucky number and meant that they weren't going to beat up the dragon. So they needed old Bilbo to come along.
Perfect.
But yeah, 13 is unlucky, I remember. Thanks, miss. You taught me well. Ari.
And now you're teaching all the viewers. This is great.
Yes.
I do. Oh, okay. So I got the Berthold point we talked about.
Like the Ackermans and shit. I can type.
Indeed, we
Go
are.
ahead, Mr. Ari.
Okay. We got 2 more points, I think. We got Grisha to Eren saying, you should have never acted.
What about the Berthold one?
Oh, we already covered the Berthold one. It's just him sweating and then going.
Oh, okay. I already saw that.
Why did it have to be today? Yeah, Grisha to Eren in his flashback to the saving, when Eren saves Mikasa as a child, he says, "You should never have acted with such disregard for your own life." And then Eren responds saying, "But I wanted to help her quickly." Which is, I mean, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I guess that doesn't matter. But at the end, obviously Eren. Well, okay, so at the end of the story, Eren does what he does because he wants to help it. Or one of the reasons is that he wants to save his friends in a way, and he does it in a quick manner. Like I don't know if this really perfectly lines up.
I think that works. I like that.
Yeah.
Eren has a recklessness to him that he wants to do things quickly. He takes things on his own to save people, even if it might not be the best option. but he got the job done with Mikasa. Though he probably
Indeed.
scarred himself for life because of it.
Indeed.
Okay, I like that one.
Perfect. All right. And then the last one, unless I've forgotten one, is it's a very obvious one, I guess. Mikasa's defense mechanism, where she calls Eren family when Ian calls her out and is like, "Oh, your boyfriend." And she's like, "No, my family." And obviously she does that again in 123, where Eren asks her, "What am I to you?"
Yes.
And she's like, "Family."
I can't remember if
It's interesting.
I brought this up. I can't remember if I brought this up already. Discussion about when Mikasa changed her mind about Eren being family versus.
We talked about that in one of the abandoned recording sessions, so
Did we?
we should bring it
Okay.
up again. Yes.
I can't remember. Did that line happen after Eren had been revealed to be alive, or?
Yes, it's Ian is talking. Yeah, because it's when Eren's passed out, right?
Right. Okay.
I think. Yeah. It is.
I think yeah. It's because that's the first time she says family, but yeah, it feels, as you said, more like a reflex than a genuine
blushes.
statement. Yeah, but previously she's called them family. She's referred to them as family. I guess to him, so maybe it's a bit different with no issues. So yeah, it was just like the idea that I maintain that Mikasa did consider Eren family until she thought she'd lost him.
Yeah.
And then her perspective shifted and she realized what she'd lost. She realized how much Eren truly meant to her. And that's when she started to perhaps realize that her feelings towards him were more than familial.
I feel like it works better if they're not in love, but we'll continue that as we continue on. I do like it by the end. I feel like the moment where it's interesting because I think this might be her being in denial a little bit. I don't know if she's like actively going after a romance with Eren at this point. I like what you're saying about how it might be right after she thought he died that
I'm not saying she's
the
necessarily
shift
pursuing a
changes.
romance. I more mean I think she's coming to terms with her feelings after that point.
Yeah. I think the definitive moment has to be 50, since Isayama said that he wanted them to kiss originally, but they didn't. So by that point, she's figured it out.
Coward.
Yeah.
No, he saved it for 138. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to get on to the discussion when we come to about how there's only like 2 kisses in the entirety of Attack on Titan, and neither of them are great.
Oh, I think I had a note in my original notes, but I never copied it over here, where someone's doing mouth-to-mouth, and I made a joke about how it was kissing. When's there mouth-to-mouth in this? And I'm not talking about the Hannah Franz one or whatever. I wasn't talking about that one. There was another one, I think. Maybe it was that one.
That's the only one I can think of.
Yeah, maybe I was thinking about that one.
Another foreshadowing thing. It kind of ties into things we've already discussed. One of my favorite lines: the animal. I'm going to destroy them, every last one of the animals on this earth. And then a few chapters later, we also get Eren referring to people as animals. We know that he actively will consider people as animals after he's murdered the kidnappers. So those two things tie together to set a very alarming little precedent. That Eren is willing.
Is interesting.
Eren is willing to look down on people as animals.
Yes, that is a very important distinction that I think is very interesting. It's so weird that in Berserk has a thing like this too, where nobody in Berserk has ever said "I love you." It's like the Attack on Titan kiss thing, but I guess that ended up happening in Attack on Titan. We got a few kisses, but
in Berserk, isn't everyone like emotionally constipated and suffering from
no? But you like when you hear that. Not really. I
haven't read enough of it to know. I've only read the first 9 chapters.
Oh, I forgot you've read it. Yes, for the stuff you've read, that's true, but that'll change very quickly.
Guts gets plenty of opportunities to say it.
Yes, when you hear that nobody's ever said "I love you," you like, no, there's no way that's true. There's no way they didn't do it in that moment. It's like, no, and I guess it's like the first hookup. I guess you shouldn't be they definitely say it in other ways. You could run away with me. Shut up.
Come on, guys. I'll be buying Deluxe Edition Volume 2 very soon to continue reading.
Yeah. And there should be a reread coming out soon with Mr. Jockey Bacon.
If you haven't seen Berserk, read Berserk, guys.
Yes. We are not going to go on another Berserk tangent. And by we, I mean me, because I'm the worst one. All right, so that's all of our foreshadowing stuff. See, we're getting through this a little bit quicker. Where should we go from here? We should probably do characterization, maybe? I feel like we already talked about the art section. Let's go to art real quick to see if there is anything we haven't brought up here. Ari, I've got none in the art section.
Oh, man,
so
I have
an
a
opportunity
few.
for you guys to talk.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've got a few here.
I think
Yeah,
I'd
we'll
already
talk
talked
Levi
about these.
looks whack. 9.5. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah, you said this, and I think me and Mr. R both were like, "What the fuck is Ari talking
Really?
about?" Let me go to one
It
point.
looks terrible. Like if I saw it, I'd be like, "Who the hell is this?" I don't
You
know.
might look a
In
little
chapter
off.
9,
Yeah, in like
the side
that
story.
half. Yeah, the side story with Levi.
I
He
definitely
looks
didn't
so
notice it,
different to what he
so-
looks like.
He looks a lot younger, I think.
I guess
Let
that's
me go to-
possible, honestly.
What about chapter like 4 or something when we see him leave? Do you think he looks weird there? Or do you not remember?
All his other appearances, I didn't notice anything where I'm like, this doesn't look like him.
Oh, just quickly on 9.5, I think I did put this as a note somewhere. I think it's probably miscellaneous.
Oh,
we
yeah, I
see
know
at the
what you're
beginning of 9.5, we get like the
Yeah.
images of like a family cornered by titans. This is like either a retcon or this is like fake or this is out of context because obviously the titans didn't just appear 100 years ago. The walls appeared and then gradually Marley sent titans, right? I don't think there were any titans on Paradis initially when the King of the Walls came to set up his shit, because otherwise why would he set up his shit here? But we do get 2 pages at the beginning, and then there were 1 page and then a double page spread about like this family being cornered the day the Titans suddenly came out, or that's at least what it implied to be. This isn't a big deal. Firstly, the double spread is fucking great. The Titan framed within the leaves is fucking sick. The other ones look really creepy and cool.
So I think part of it
it's
is
not a
because
big
these are
deal.
side-
It's side stories.
I'm trying to think how the side stories were created. Were they published in a magazine first, or were they made explicit
I also
for the
wanted to ask
volume
that
releases?
question.
Because if they were made
I have
explicit
no
for the volume
idea.
releases, it's kind of weird that we do get this little prelude thing. Because what's the benefit of this? Is this meant to be? Yeah, it's weird now that you talk about it. I don't.
Well, I
don't
just
quite-
assumed it was like a history book, like something the royal government is like pushing.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I think that's
Because
what it's meant to
after
be
this,
showing.
it
and
goes to
everything.
like that information, right, about the construction of the walls.
Yeah, I like it. Like, I just think it's kind of funny that it this I
Yeah,
guess
it
didn't
is.
happen. But the page itself,
Unless
the
it
double
did.
page spread is fucking sick, and it is that sort of weird early Attack on Titan art at like its best.
I feel
And
like
also
they
the
definitely
Titan here has
excluded-
stomach veins. Like
They
boob
excluded
veins,
those pages.
no
They
big
excluded those pages from the anime, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't
These
remember
ones, but they
those.
do adapt to the
Yeah, they adapt the chapter.
There also
but they
is a
excluded-
recap thing here at the beginning, so it might, and also a little bit of redrawing. So maybe this is like just added for the volume. I'm guessing. I do like it as an
Maybe.
introduction to Levi's character, though.
It's kind
guess-
it is a weird one. I'm trying to work out where it comes from. Like, it definitely sets up some weirdness again. Like the fact that they just suddenly managed to construct these walls definitely helps set up help set up the mystery as well. Of like, how the fuck did they build these walls when their technology seems
Yeah,
so?
it's leaning into that. Yeah, which gets a cool reveal later, but Also, Levi's fighting techniques here are a little different. Like his main fighting technique, at least I remember this in the manga, in the anime. Maybe it's different in the manga. I guess we're just talking about the side chapter real quick here. Is that he does the thing where he throws the blades into the Titan's eyes, and it's really cool, but it's like kind of a total waste, and he never does it again. And that he sort of like catches
throws a
the
blade at
Titan
Kenny.
on his. He does.
Yeah,
Is
he's
that
just
in the
bored.
manga?
Yep, that's in the manga.
I
Maybe
can't
those
remember that
maybe the
stuff
blades were
from manga, yeah.
blunted at that point.
Potentially, but he also like does the thing where he catches the Titan frontwards over like the throat with his wire and then goes around it. That part's cool though. I guess he does look a little off here now that I'm looking at him. But it didn't like when I was reading it, I didn't really register it. I was just like, oh, it's the early art style. But I guess Ari thinks Isama's
Yep.
terrible at art and
Terrible.
wants him
Worst,
to
yep.
die.
believe
We also get like
betrayed
if you look as well, we also get like an establishment of his backhand style as well. Like his cuts, he always
Backhand
wields one
with
of his
Levi,
blades
yeah.
backwards. He holds it backwards.
Oh yes, because so he can do the cool spins.
Yep. All right, more in line with the art. We're going back to it. So we've got. I thought by okay, so in terms of the overall art quality, it starts off like good in my opinion. Like there's nothing. I don't know if we already talked about this or this was like a past recording
Yeah,
session or whatever. But
I think we did in
like,
this one too.
yeah, the art is great to start off. But
Yeah.
to me, like when I got to chapter 12, I was like, this is great. Like there's from 12 onwards, like to me, it's like
There's
all
nothing
consistent
wrong.
quality from there. Like at least the one thing I did note by chapter 12 is sometimes the close-ups of the face are like not as detailed as they will be later. But it's
Yeah.
perfectly passable, and it looks great from then onwards. But yeah.
Yeah.
What else have I got? The double page spread. Oh yeah, so when the Colossal Titan first appears, I thought that was a really great visual in both the manga and the anime.
It's so
like
sudden.
it's something. It is so sudden, and I think the
chapter
anime
1,
adapts it so well.
No, in chapter 3.
No. When he reappears, like behind Eren.
Oh, and when he reappears. Sorry.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And
It is really cool.
the last piece of art. What is this? Some action. Yes. So I found some of the action art confusing. I know
There's
that you
one
guys
shot.
like it. Yep.
There's like I think it's in like 9 where like Eren has a Titan in Titan form by the throat, and it took me like a minute of staring at it to try and figure out what the fuck was happening. I was wondering if you were about to bring that up. I guess not, because you're
No.
not jumping up and saying I remember that one, but
I don't remember that one.
that was I'm inclined to agree with you just from this one panel, but the rest of it I thought was pretty good.
I thought, but one thing that stood out to me was, I don't know when this was, but I remember I was like, what is this? Because there was steam, and it didn't look like steam to me. I was like, if I didn't know this was steam, I would not be able to tell that this is like Titan steam. It just looked like some liquid or something, but that's not related to action. I don't know. It's just
I'm going to say though, if you want confusing action art, go read Sailor Moon or even like Demon Slayer. I'd argue there's some confusing action art in that.
Yeah, true.
Sailor Moon has it the worst though. It's really pretty, but fucking hell, you can't work out what's going on in it.
Yeah, for the most part, it's very few things in here where I can't figure it out. Surprisingly, I can figure out what's going on. Like, I remember the first time I was reading through, that was one of my criticisms, where I was like, half the time I can't figure out what's going on with the action. But
I feel like part of that is
just
because of the heavy
so
line
quickly.
work, like the heavy pen lines. And once he goes digital, it's like that problem mostly goes away.
Yeah.
I posted the one page I was talking about in the collab section. The top image, I was trying to figure out what the fuck was going on.
Does he have his arm?
But
you know what? I don't know.
He's slamming a Titan onto another Titan, and he's in the back there, and you can kind of see with his hair. The people can't see this image though, so we probably shouldn't stand on it. But it's
confusing
in chapter.
Image.
If the people
Still
in the
good
audience
image.
want to see it, it's in chapter 9. It's just over halfway through the chapter when Eren's going on a rampage right after he sees the one that killed Thomas. God, there's so much more cooler violence in the fucking manga. Heads getting decapitated, blood splurting everywhere. God, what a better medium, you know? What a better medium.
There's no music though.
Fuck music. I think
And
that's
then right
is that
after that,
all
we get
of
that
it?
amazing double page of Eren coming out the Titan. It's
Yes.
so well drawn.
It's like one of the best things in the entire manga in terms of art quality, I think. Even compared to the way later stuff. So, yeah. Are we doing paneling now real quick? Because I think that's all the art stuff.
Yeah, I mean, paneling kind of follows directly on from art. I know you want to talk about your 3-panel cut.
Oh,
thing.
the 3 cut thing. I think we talked about this again in the lost recording sessions. That weren't lost. We just got rid of them because they were bad.
Maybe you'll see them one day.
Maybe. Probably not,
Probably
though.
not.
Don't get your hopes up. Isayama does this thing where he like has 3 like panels at the end, and it sort of cuts one panel up, and it'll sort of always be in awkward positions. I don't know how the fuck to explain it. If you go to chapter 1 and you look at like the Irwin stuff at the very beginning or the Scout stuff at the very beginning, there is a very like keen use of it at the very beginning. This is just for the audience in case they want to go and see what the fuck I'm talking about right now. But there's one, I'm trying to scroll up now, fucking spawn me at the bottom of the page. On the very first page, Owen's face is like cut up by one of these panel things, and there's like 3 and it continues on. Now I think this is just supposed to be cutting to another thing, like we cut to a different shot. And at the very end of the beginning thing in the first chapter, there's also some horizontal one, as he says, the power of the human race, and he comes down on the Titan.
And if you want another great example, when Mikasa gets the scarf wrapped around her in whatever chapter that is, chapter 7, 6?
7 or 6?
Chapter 6, yeah, the world the girl saw. When she says okay and she starts crying, it's 5 cuts.
Oh Jesus!
Hold on, I'm trying to
that
see
one
this because I
panel.
don't remember this. It's probably at the end. Scrolling. Yes, it is. See, it works there really well, I think, because it is like cutting out. It's sort of
Yeah,
like
I interpret it as like almost like a weird fade effect almost in that one.
yeah, that
Because
is
it's like
a
getting
good way to put
less
it.
and less focus in each panel. it's a really interesting way. I still don't really know what it's doing, because the Irwin one, it would make no sense for it to be, well, the Irwin one and then the Moses one.
Well, it's just like a quick cut. The Moses one works because it's like fading to a different scene, I guess.
But the Mikasa one, it is just fading out. So it's like it could be a quick cut or a fade.
Yeah, because it's going to white, and then if you see the next page, there's like a full thing at the top where it's just a sound effect in white. So yeah, it is sort of like a fade. I think that's better than a cut, as I was describing it. But yeah, it is interesting. It is like an interesting Isayama quirk. I don't really think I've ever seen that in other manga, but I haven't read too many other manga. On the paneling also, I think I actually said this in the Lost Recording session. I used to say this all the time about how uniquely and Attack on Titan was paneled sort of diagonally, like all the pages would like have diagonal panels and things like that, whereas most other manga are like more boxy. This is true in chapter 1, and it is true way later on. Like, I can remember all the final arc stuff. It was all like that, or it was all horizontal, and it would be like there would be 3 panels on a page, and the top one would be horizontal. No, the top one would be diagonally cut, and the bottom one would be, and maybe the middle one was more boxy. When we get into like chapters like 3 through like, I would even say to the end of this, to like 18, they are very boxy, like all the other manga I've read. Like just scrolling through this Mikasa one now, all of the flashback stuff is done in boxes. I'm assuming that this is probably done to, it's probably easier to just do the boxes. And like when you're trying to make manga every month quickly, that's probably the easier way to do it. And as he got better at planning shit out, he did that or something. But yeah, it is boxy at the beginning here quite a bit, but it is diagonal at the beginning, and increasingly as we continue on, I think. Yep. We'll keep an eye on that as we go too. Those are my only paneling things. Ari, you got another one?
I got one paneling thing, which is probably not really paneling, but when there's this scene where Armin is in shock of like losing like Eren and basically everyone dying around him, and Connie is calling out to him, but the way Isayama shows it is that he's got like this squiggly text in like bold that I'm like, what is going on here? And it's effective. I like it. And then it slowly like it squiggles into like not even saying Armin, but just like the end of Armin, like saying Min. And it's like it's a cool transition to kind of show what the squiggle was all along. Back,
yeah.
It's great.
Scrolling through these chapters now, there are so many fucking 3 thingies. There are so many 3 fade out things that we were just talking about. There's so many. Like the dude shooting himself in the head is another one where that is here. But on the point you were just talking about with the weird text, I'm trying to find it, but I remember it. I think it must be in 6. There's an Oceans video. I don't know if you've ever seen Oceans.
No.
Miller's worst enemy. He makes a video. He has a video called like Form is Content or something, where he actually brings up a bunch of examples of how weird ways text is done in manga and paneling is done in manga to sort of make the form content. And he talks about things like that with the text being weird. Like in Chainsaw Man, like there's just a point where it like changes language and you're not supposed to figure out what it means. And like it's a cool thing because it's like taking away like reading from manga, which is like the thing. You read manga, but when you can't read manga, but you can only go off the facial expressions and how that's drawn and stuff like that. It's a really interesting video. I'll send it to you afterwards, but it builds on those points of sort of like how you can do interesting effects like that, or create interesting effects like that using I guess abnormal text or things in speech bubbles. It's cool, and I actually didn't remember Isayama doing that, so it was cool that he did. I still haven't found it, but I remember it. And that's our really paneling stuff.
I have something really quick to bring up from art. I was just scrolling, randomly flicking through the pages. Look at the very first page of chapter 5, and look at one of the Titan designs in it. It's the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen. And it looks the head of it looks a bit like Eren's founding Titan, because it's got the pointy ears and the long hair.
I'm scrolling.
Oh, it does.
Oh, yes, crazy. The one that's on all fours? Yeah, it is
and the
weird.
Thing is,
I do remember
it
noting
looks like
that.
it's got... It doesn't look like it's crawling on its knuckles. It looks like it's got, like, actual feet on the front as well.
Yeah, it looks like Cart Titan, Lamel.
Yeah, it looks like a quadrupedal Titan with, like, Eren's... Because there's a big thing about, like, the Titan history and, like, how the Eren, the Jaeger family line Titans all have pointy ears in their Titan forms.
Yeah.
So is that
I'd never noticed that, but
Grisha?
Yes, it's one of the no, well, probably not one of the. I was going to say Jaegers, the Restorationists, but they're not related to Grisha at all. So, I do like that page particularly, how the cannonballs are drawn and things like that.
Yes.
Well,
cool.
it's
I've
because it's
heard
not
about that.
cannonballs; it's grape shot, isn't it? Rather than cannonballs.
What's a
Because if
is
you look at the
that
very
just
first
different?
one, they're loading
Oh,
tons
yes.
of them into the single shot.
Oh,
not-
So
yeah,
each,
yeah.
so each cannon's shooting like a volley of them.
Yeah, I really like that. Like it's so it's so jarring to me because I'm like, what is this? Like, is this giant zoomed in blood or something?
Yeah.
But then when you notice what was showed on the previous, like
I
little
feel like the rocks
panel.
are drawn like that when Zeke throws them too.